Sabre season gets underway tonight. They host the New York Rangers, 6 p.m. pregame, a 7 p.m. puck drop in net tonight for the Sabres. Alex Lyon is set to get the start. And then some good news on the blue line. Both Owen Power and Matthias Samuelsson are expected to play, according to head coach Lindy Ruff. Bills also got back to work today. Matt Milano, TJ Sanders not practicing, while Dion Dawkins, Dorian Williams, and Ed Oliver were all limited. This, according to head coach Sean McDermott. We'll get the official injury report later on in the afternoon. McDermott, though, also said with the media the team is not going to be opening up the 21-day practice window for any of the players currently on injured reserve. And the Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. We'll also get more on today. Sal Capaccio is set to join the show at 5 p.m. Week 6, though, will get underway tonight with Thursday Night Football. Giants hosting the Eagles. Kickoff at 8:15 over on Amazon Prime. And you can listen to that game over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. Some injury notes. Wide receiver Darius Slayton for the Giants is out, as is Eagles guard Landon Dickerson. Some other injury notes around the league. Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson again miss practice while in baseball. Just 2 games tonight. Dodgers host the Phillies at 6, and then at 9, Brewers at the Cubs. LA and Milwaukee are the 2 teams that can advance tonight with a win. And then Sports Talk on WGR is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL games live every Sunday all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't think that's a very good attitude.
It's Mike Schopp.
You don't think? You don't think? I don't think you should be butting in when I'm talking to my team. You're my assistant, okay? You're supposed to back me up and go get me juice boxes when I tell you. Now go get me a juice box. You know who you're talking to.
It's the Bulldog.
I'm talking to the juice box guy. You're crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm just thirsty. Why don't you go to hell? No, you go to hell. While you're there, why don't you grab me a juice box? I'm no juice box boy, I'll tell you that. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are.
Mike
I'm not.
Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Close. Top juice box. Is there a cran grape out there somewhere in the wild? Is there a cran grape? I want to say cran grape is the top. Is there an orange juice box? No. That would never be a juice box, right? For some reason, is there something about orange juice that would prohibit it from ending up in a box? No one can tell. There's no way to find out. Thanks for listening. It is opening night for the Sabres, and you were just told that. Chris Trapasso today, Joe Ostrowski before Chris today. That'll be big because the pressure is on and Bulldog is not here to participate or distract. I'm totally setting myself up here for embarrassment and failure. For the last 3 weeks, this show, which is not called Bet Anything, has given out a tight end to score a touchdown in the Thursday night game, and normal people had never heard of any of them. Jackson Hawes, A.J. Barner, Jake Tonjes, even our esteemed colleagues at Bet Sweats were confused, if not clueless, to who these people were, which I don't mean negatively because that means there's a better chance they're living normal lives, that they wouldn't know who these people are. But here we go. Like as soon as the third one hit last week, Tonjes, that's right, Tonges, Jake Tonjes for San Francisco, first touchdown of the game against the Rams last week. Then it's like, all right, let's keep it rolling. Run it back. Who's your guy going to be next week? And well, we will find out together, or I will tell you. See if Joe has. Maybe Joe Ostrowski has been. We'll see. This could be a no. So impressed with this experience here of late. The Buffalo guys are giving us tight ends. I mean, if you went first touchdown rather of the game on especially Hawes. Well, that wasn't the first touchdown, though. Ollie Gordon, that was good, too. Scored the first touchdown in Bills-Dolphins, the Thursday night game a few weeks ago. But if you had first touchdown on Barner or Tonjes, like, great job. And you could, I think this is maybe what Bulldog does. You throw in these long shots. He does it through parlays, whatever it is. Like if you hit on a big one, like 20-1 or something like that, then you sort of can just leave that money in there and just play with it. Is that how the greats do it? They just hit a big one early, or do they throw big money in on deposits and match offers all the time? I feel like that's probably not as healthy of a process as just like, if I can win one, then I don't have to stress over putting more money in my FanDuel account or something. Like, this is just sort of the easier path. Anyway, Thursday night tonight is Eagles-Giants. I tweeted earlier, I think there are 3 interesting tight ends for this game to consider, and that there is one that I like very much the most. But these are all still long shots, so make sure you hear me say that. The Sabres tonight, the Blue Jays last night. I wonder how you feel about this. Like, this is not going to be applicable to this Sabres game. It's the first game of the season. What do you want tonight? You want a good time. You want there to not be evidence that this is going to be another bad season, right? You don't want to have that. We don't want to sit here tomorrow and take calls from fans, if anybody would even call about the Sabres the day after their first game of the season. That's not even a given. About a 5-2 loss where they gave up 5 goals on 23 shots and went 0 for 5 on the power play. This is pretty much the worst case scenario, right? Or even worse than the worst case scenario. And then the comments Travis Yost made earlier in the week on this show are rattling around in our brains on how, the goaltending point, special teams from last year. We know we don't want that. But you want to just feel like a good season is possible. That's all. That should be a safe proposition here tonight. We probably shouldn't worry too much about one game into this Sabre season being a game that scares us off of the idea they actually might be pretty good. I feel like I've read enough previews, predictions for the year to feel like I think I know what the consensus opinion is about them. This is from within the fan base and just like local people, but also national or international, if you want to call Travis that. And it's that the numbers like the Sabres, more than maybe they have in a long time, advanced stats stuff, analytics, that the Sabres have a lineup, including the guys from Utah in the Paterka move, that people think are maybe better than whatever their general reputation is. Like Doan and Kesselring, these guys are maybe better. Danforth, maybe these are names you don't even know yet. It's night one. Maybe they have a sneaky, smart, good lineup. Maybe. It's hard to take that kind of thing for granted around here. At least it is hard for me. But I'm open to it. The goaltending question is reasonable, if not obvious, about the Sabres. Like, what are they in net? And here's the good news. No one ever knows. You can take Alex Lyon. You can take Luukkonen off his injury whenever that happens. You can take the new Colton Ellis. Oh, nailed it. You can don't make me double down on that. You can take the new guys, the goalie room as a group, and either just assume it'll be bad because none of these guys has ever been good in the NHL. I mean, Luukkonen was for a stretch at least, but really that's the peak. Or throw your hands up and imagine the possibility that, as happens with goaltending all the time in hockey, that there's something there. And so I will choose to do that, but it is again, fair to wonder. Like the lineup, no, they didn't replace Paterka's goals, but maybe what they did, this is when, you sort of talk like this, right? Before the season is, when you're 0-0, before the season has even started, you can talk about like how everything goes well. And, maybe they can be good enough to break the drought. After that, I don't know. But you see some projections that'll have them in. A lot of the numbers ones seem to like the Sabres, like I said. And you can see others where they're the same. And, I guess we're used to that. So it won't be any sort of life-changing thing if they're just okay, just mid. Get me to February. Give me to Valentine's Day. Shout out Valentine's Day with a real look at it. 50 games, whatever that is, the Olympic break. Get me to the Olympic break with life. Because that has not happened that recently. It did not happen last year. There was no Olympic break. That I think would be welcomed. I like that the game is sold out. Again, opening night is not the time to be cynical. Opening night is the time to be hopeful. And the fact that the Sabres sold out the game, which I did not think was a given here, feels like enough of you have bought in to make tonight sort of a fun night. Hopefully it is down there. I will not be in there. I was thinking about, I already blurted it out, thinking about the Sabres game or the Sabres in general and the Blue Jays last night. So I like the Blue Jays. I was, again, out of my seat for their big hits, the win last night. Actually, if you listened to this show yesterday, I will ask you this question. You might not be able to give me an answer. I will give you the answer myself. Why would I have stayed up for the entirety of last night's game, but not the game the night before? Has nothing to do with my kids being on the bus by 6:30 in the morning. Has nothing to do with anything else. It's just that they were ahead. I don't want to watch my teams lose. And this is a team that I have no professional obligation to. So it doesn't mean anything if I turn off a baseball game. You don't care. I really don't care. Like, I'm just not going to sit there for an hour and a half in the late innings stressing and, feeling frustrated because my team is losing. And this is only my team when they're good, right? I mean, that's embarrassing for me to say, isn't it? What kind of sports fan is that? It's a bandwagon fan. I admit it. I'm finding it very healthy. I don't really care when they go 78-84. I think that math checks. I don't really care when they do that. But when they are good, I am into it, and I enjoy it, and that's just what it is. And I loved last night. And you know what? I would say this, and maybe you would agree or not as a sports fan yourself. I've said this many times over the years, thinking about the Bills mostly, or even the Sabres. I love it when my team wins on the road. I think winning on the road kills winning at home. But, what are the pluses about winning at home? Maybe you're there. That would be one. That would be cool. Like certain Sabres games or Bills games over the years, and they easily come to mind. If you're in the arena or you're at the stadium and you're able, like the Patriots playoff game, maybe that's a lot more fun at home, and it's also super cold, right? So you're enduring the elements and everything, and that would feel like even better. You're at a game where it's snowing constantly. You're sort of like toughing it out, if you will, and they win and you're in the stadium or you're in the arena. That's really maybe tough to beat. There's something about, I don't know, this is maybe a character flaw in me. Thinking about the Yankees fans last night who are miserable. I mean, I just love that. I don't know. Like, it's just the best. It's the best with, Fox, of course, is obsessed with showing you pictures of fans all night in between every pitch. They have got to show you the crowd. And I don't know, who needs that? I said this yesterday. What's the point? But they do that, and you feel like now it's the eighth inning, and it's 4-1 or 5-1, whatever it is. And you've got these constant pictures of Yankees fans with their face in their hands, or they're just slouched back. Hi to the people on Twitch and YouTube. They're just like way back, like, why do I do this? There's the Schadenfreude element. There's something rich in that when your team is winning those games. It's not the best example. A blowout would be a better example, or whatever you'd call last night. Last night was not a blowout, but it was, pretty comfortable. I'm thinking of like Jason Pominville scoring in Ottawa. And for me, that night, 2006, so almost 20 years ago, that night was, I'm not in Ottawa. It's game 5 of that series. I'm home with my wife watching the game on TV and absolutely enthralled, like completely having given myself over to this hockey game, this sporting event. It's 3-1 Sabres in the series. If they lose, we'll go to game 6, and that'll be awesome too, but it's probably 2 more days of stress and anxiety. Better to win it here. And so we are like maybe even standing up for that overtime. Maybe couldn't even sit down. I don't remember. I remember the room I was in. Old house. But not whether I was sitting or standing. And then Pominville, kind of out of nowhere, scores that goal, and it's like, it's over. And the Sabres, the dog pile out on the ice, and, mixed in images of Senators fans who are back like this, Maybe their face is in their hands too, arms folded, all the negative energy that we know so well over the years, going way back with the Sabres. And that is the best. I think that's the best. Winning on the road. I've said many times, my favorite, is it my number one? It might be. My favorite Bills win is the 92 AFC Championship in Miami. And I went to the 91 AFC Championship, and I went to the playoff games in one of them in 93. Like, I was at a lot of those games, and those were great days. My favorite is the one in Miami, when I happened to be alone in my dorm at Fish State. Shout out to Fish State. I'm alone in my dorm watching that game. I don't know why I was alone. I'm sure there were, even for me, opportunities to sort of hang out with friends or whatever for that game, but I'm still this way. I didn't really want to. Just want to, just all the way focus on it. I don't want the noise. I want to listen to it. I want to feel it. It's easier to feel it when it's just me and the game. So sitting there in my dorm, the Bills beat the Dolphins 29-10. I think was the score. Fun score, kind of an easy win. And I'm not there to celebrate it. I've got no one around me, but something about those road wins when you feel you can enjoy, even, dare I say it, the pain that the home fans, your rivals, are feeling at that time is pretty good. I got to say, it's pretty good. So we'll get to the Bills here. We've got the game on Monday night in Atlanta. Chris Trapasso will talk some young quarterbacks with me, including Michael Penix, who the Bills will see for the first time on Monday night. Chris has been such a great colleague of ours around the draft, and we've talked about all these quarterbacks so many times, but we'll check in with him on Penix and what he sees so far. Talking to Sal yesterday, and Sal will be on later with me as well, just sort of a lack of confidence in what the Bills are getting in the Falcons. And it's funny, I did, as I do every week, Matthew Collar's podcast this morning, Purple Insider, on the Vikings. The Vikings have played the Falcons, and that was a Sunday night game in week 2. And Atlanta won easily. This is when the Vikings decided that we need to make up an injury for J.J. McCarthy. Like, he's just not ready to do this, and let's just not bury him, so let's say his ankle hurts, which they did, and maybe it's better now. Wouldn't you know it? They've lost a game in the last few weeks and then barely beat the Browns. So maybe he's fine now. He's trending in the right direction, I think is probably right. So I'm talking to Matthew, and he just happens to say, referring to that game in week 2, I don't know what the Vikings are at all. And I'm like, buddy, that's exactly how I feel. Or the Falcons. Did I say the Vikings? I don't know what the Falcons are at all. I had a guest yesterday from Atlanta and brought this up to him, Joe Patrick, like, what is Atlanta really? And, kind of the gist is we're still trying to find that out. What is Penix? how good can they be? There's talent, but is it sort of enough to give them a higher floor where they can beat the bad teams and maybe play with the good ones? Well, they lost to Carolina 30-0. So I don't know what to do with Atlanta. At least we have the extra day. But Chris Trapasso will join me, and we'll talk about Penix and, again, some of the other young quarterbacks. What is Cam Ward at this point? We have Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels on Monday night. There are 2 games on Monday night. The Bills game against Atlanta starts earlier than the other, so that'll be ESPN, and then you'll have Joe Buck, Troy Aikman at Chicago, Washington. As soon as the schedule came out and the schedule called for 2 Monday night games in week 6, I'm like, the Bills are going to be the early one. Like, that's Chicago, Washington. I mean, huge markets. That's going to be the main game, but it's still Monday Night Football. Talk about Drake May as well with Chris later. The Bills wearing the standing buffalo on Monday night, all whites for this game, so throwback uniforms. Atlanta, is it technically a throwback? They're wearing red helmets, which they wore in the 80s and I think were really great. Maybe the 70s too. Like the Falcons had red helmets for a long time. Then they went to this all-black look, Jerry Glanville, like those years, and they're still wearing black jerseys for the game against the Bills, but it's red helmets, black jerseys, and both teams in white pants for the game. So some discussion about Bills and Falcons on Monday night. I'm curious from Sal where we're at with Dalton Kincaid. And actually, just like with Keon Coleman back on Tuesday, I wanted to bring up this one idea to Bulldog, who was here then, and it was about like the Coleman draft pick and how that's going. It's kind of interesting and not maybe clear cut what or how it's going with Coleman. But I had the same thought today about Kincaid, like sort of, he had a good game against the Patriots. And on Matthew's show this morning, I mentioned Kincaid as a player I'd like to bet on this week. Maybe you can build off of the game against New England. It's not like he was running all the routes or, playing all the time. He's still capped in this way in this offense. That didn't really change Sunday, but at least they got a few plays out of him. And probably whatever his prop numbers are going to be, if I get 3 or 4 plays out of Kincaid Monday night, then I would probably win. So I wanted to talk about him, but then today I've got him in a non-contact jersey at practice, red jersey. So I don't know what that means, but you've got this game and then the bye week. And like probably every team, the Bills have their injury stuff. The guys who are on IR that will be eligible to come back, nobody's back yet. They're going to take it all the way to the bye and then see where they're at with Maxwell Hairston, Grable, and also even Tyler Bass, if there's a possibility that Bass makes it back on the field. I think there probably is, but Prater's done almost everything right so far. So see what Sal knows about Kincaid later on. That'll be at 5. Pregame for Sabres Rangers downtown at 6, and Paul will join me then. Talk about the roster, the season. Here it comes. One of 14 games in the NHL tonight, so I probably should start reading the scores around the NHL. I probably should get into that like maybe by 5:30 to make sure there's time for that. So Sal later, Chris Trapasso later, of course, the hockey game tonight, and next, Joe Ostrowski from Bet Sweats. Always fun. Who is going to be our tight end pick tonight? Can we keep the streak going? And more on Week 6 in the NFL. Thanks for listening. Wish Bulldog was here with me, but he's out sick again. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
we've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. Oh, you seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again, you gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. Roller coaster. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
Not at all Joe's doing. He has no responsibility for this. His co-host does. We'll get into this tomorrow with him, perhaps. But I just remembered after putting money into, let's just call it by its actual name, DK Horse, last year, that I still had money in there. So I took it out. Sam roped me in. I took my money out of DK Horse today. I don't know. There might be something going on at Aqueduct I should care about, but if there is, I just don't even know about it, which is probably fine. With me now on the West Her hotline is the great Joe Ostrowski. Bet Sweats, weekday mornings, 9 to noon Eastern on the Bet 1520 and the Odyssey app. Odyssey betting insider, Joe No Pressure. And I feel some pressure to get a tight end touchdown for you tonight.
You should feel that pressure because I've had nothing to do with what's occurred over the last 3 weeks. It's just come up over the course of conversation. And see, I knew this question was coming. So now I'm concerned. I had nothing to do with it in the past.
Okay.
So now I know you're going to ask me. And the problem is thinking about it. There was no thought, right? For the most part, we're kind of flying.
Well,
just,
let's see.
Okay, let's go quickly. What's the name? I think this is going to happen. Okay, boom. Without looking at like red zone targets or usage and stuff like that. Right. There was none of that in the process over the last few weeks.
That is fair. That is fair. Jackson Hawes, Bulldog, wants ownership of that one. I liked it too. We both did that. AJ Barner was, I think you might have brought up, all right, who's your guy tonight? Like, oh, well, AJ Barner. And then last week it was, now we need one, and Tonjes was the name that was obvious there. There are 3, as I tweeted, interesting names tonight, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I've already done it.
Okay.
So Theo Johnson of the Giants, plus 4,500. Bellinger of the Giants, plus 9,000. Grant Calcaterra of the Eagles. I mean, we don't play with like guys like Dallas Goedert in this, right? So
right.
Plus 16,000. Calcaterra, I mean, that's hardcore, but what's the play if he scores a touchdown?
Well, I'm glad that's not the guy because
he's not the guy.
Isn't he out?
Is he, even better. That makes it easier.
On the injury report, it said out.
That makes it easier. Well,
I saw your tweet, and I did a double take. I'm like, wait a second. Did I see that correctly? And I pulled up the injury report again. I was like, okay, good. He's out.
Even with 294 fantasy teams, we don't have to worry about Grant Calcaterra. So I didn't even know that. All right, so that's my excuse on that. Okay. I am starting Theo Johnson in quite a few leagues because, I mean, I think he's kind of hot. Like, this is a huge guy who can move. And I picked him up a lot last week with Dart taking the job because you never know who the new quarterback's guy is going to be. And he scored 2 touchdowns against the Saints. But Bellinger also had 6 targets, I think, and even maybe played over Johnson. I'm going Bellinger here at 9-1.
And Bellinger would be my pick. First off, the odds are double for Bellinger versus Johnson. Johnson was on the field a ton, and you know about the room.
Oh, I do.
Well, most bet anytime touchdown scored tonight, of course, it's Saquon. Saquon revenge. He went off last year against the Giants, even though he's doing absolutely nothing right now, and his numbers are going south. Let's bet every prop on him. He's the most popular touchdown bet for tonight at minus 160. The second most popular touchdown bet of any player in the game is Theo Johnson.
Oh, wow.
So
good.
I think you're on the right track. Yeah, I was considering Bellinger at 8-1. I think that's a good look. With Calcaterra out, the only guy that's I did take a few minutes to look at a little bit of research. The only guy that's had a red zone target that's a tight end for Philly is Goddard. That's it. Nobody else has gotten any looks. I think. Yeah, you're right. Bellinger is the obvious one. So 8-1 for an anytime touchdown. We've got to look for the first one. One of the 3 was first, or was it 2 of them?
The first one, Hawes, I've only bet anytime.
Hawes was second.
He was the second touchdown of the game. The other 2 guys were the first touchdown of the game.
Wow.
Barner and Tonjes.
Yeah, I bet it anytime last week, and I had wished I put something on first. First touchdown, Bellinger's 40.
Oof. Is there any rhyme or reason to first? Like, is there any real thinking that you need for first versus anytime?
There are people that are pretty good at it. I'm terrible at it. So I'm not even sure I've ever hit one. So you're asking the wrong person. I don't think so, but you could make the case. Okay, it's on the script. What do you usually if they score early? Is there some rhyme or reason behind the OC or the head coach where they want to get this player involved early? Sometimes that comes to fruition, but I don't think so.
I did have Andrews to get the first pass in the Baltimore. Who was the night game where they lost? Detroit. That game, because I thought that was the reason. That was the logic. Was like get him back after the 2 quiet games. I was out at a bar with a friend for an Indianapolis-Houston playoff game. This, I think, was Andrew Luck. Indianapolis at Houston. The AFC South Invitational. First game of the weekend every year in the playoffs is the AFC South. And he hit Eric Ebron first touchdown. I'm like, how did you possibly get that? So it happens. With Joe Ostrowski. So speaking of touchdowns, before we go too much further, from watching your show, I jumped into the Kelly in Vegas touchdown survivor pool.
Okay.
I mean, like headlong, Joe. I'm in.
This is kind of made for you. Yeah.
A little bit. I felt like I could, I could forget about it and not I could be the guy who doesn't get his picks in. Mm-hmm. But if I get my picks in, maybe it can do okay here. 9 out of 10 last week. High scoring week, but still, I feel good about that.
Wow.
Yep, 9 out of 10. Would you play Barkley? I don't know if you might not be in there. You're kind of survivor guy, but you might not be in this one. Would you play Barkley?
I've thought about it, jumping in. I have not jumped in. I would think it's going to happen. Okay. I would think so. Now, as far as the other props that are also going to be very popular, like the yardage, I don't see how. I just can't get there on that one. And every week, the number has gone down with his rushing yards. It started at 80, 60, 46, 43. Now we're down to 30. I don't think he's
30.
100%. Yeah, last week. He had 30 rushing yards.
Oh, wow. Okay. Right. In the game. Yeah. Right. I thought that was the line. No, okay.
No, I wish it was the line. The line's 84.5, which he hasn't sniffed this year. And I'm going to play the over on the total rushing and receiving, which is 104.5.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like the Eagles in the game?
I don't love them.
I don't like them.
I'm not betting the spread. I could see it upset again on a Thursday night. Remember what we had last Thursday? It wouldn't shock me. I mean, Giants last week, it was all about those 5 turnovers, obviously. And this Eagles squad offensively, it's not getting better. There's always a half where they are a complete no-show. We had 5 3-and-outs this past Sunday. I know it was a much tougher opponent in the Broncos defense, but I don't trust them at all right now. So I'm staying away from the side. Probably a low-scoring game. I know we're looking anytime touchdown for a tight end. I'm not sure how many touchdowns we're getting in this game.
That's fine. I get that. Yeah, I've decided the Eagles are actually bad. And like 2 years in a row, they've turned the script over the course of the season, and I kind of think it's going to happen again after starting 4-0. But I was following the lead of yourself and Sam on Bet Sweats. I was all in on Denver last week. Mm-hmm. And they're down 17-3. It wasn't like a no-brainer or anything, but it wasn't a rocking chair bet. And I'm going with the Giants tonight with the points at home.
So who's winning that division then? Washington?
I have a bet on Dallas.
Oh, that's right. You talked about them for playoffs. Yeah.
Both playoffs. I love it right now. I think Washington loses to the Bears. And I could see an Eagles loss. I could see Dallas being like whatever it would be, like a half game out or something if they win in Carolina. Come on. I love it.
How does Dak get the credit? Man, what number did you get in the division? I was surprised to see these.
I have to look.
High.
I don't know. It's great.
There's 11 out there.
This is you mean like presently?
Current, yeah.
Okay. This was
the Crown.
It was Dallas and Cleveland were the 2 bets I made last week. Not division on Cleveland, but I'd have to look. I'll text you. It's good.
That makes sense to me. I forgot about your Dallas stance, and I was thinking that you were going to say Washington, assuming that they would win this week, because we were talking about a different Washington angle. That if they do win this division, where does the credit go? Maybe Jaden Daniels. His number floated to 35-1 for MVP.
Okay. I already have Prescott.
Okay.
From before the season.
Do. Yeah. Wow, he's still at 30. Yeah, I was thinking about Dak. The numbers are ridiculous. If he's able to keep this up, what can they do there? What sort of reward is he going to get? I guess he's an automatic for comeback. But I was kind of thinking, well, what if – I know recently it's been Offensive Player of the Year. Let's give it to the best running back or receiver since MVP is a quarterback award. But what if they just kind of flip the script and, like, we want to give Dak something?
Hey –
yeah.
I mean, he was second in the MVP 2 years ago. I don't think he gets as much hate as people talk about. I think he's very. Who do you like? Who do you turn to whose analysis you respect? That person likes Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Like, they think he's great. And the Allen win was partly that Diggs had left. And here's Prescott throwing 110 yards to Ryan Flournoy on the road and winning games. I have Dallas at 22-1 to win the East.
Wow, that's outstanding. So they cut it in half after last weekend. No, but you're right on Dak. And just last week's win alone, doing it without CeeDee Lamb, he didn't have 4 starting offensive linemen. It's all him. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. And so how does he get rewarded with that? It's remarkable. I know you're aware. I think at some point we talked about it. When he comes off that season-ending injury, he comes back into an MVP level in the last few times.
Yeah, pretty good. What are your thoughts on the Bills after Sunday night? Is New England that good? Was that a sort of a weird game, an off night for the Bills? I know the odds, the Bills were such a huge favorite, and that's come down a lot. You don't want to really, well, I'm saying this, dabble in that probably. But, New England a week ago when we last spoke would have been huge odds to win the East. Could they actually do it?
I feel like this is one of those old PTI questions. We get the result of something. Was it more about this side or more about that side? And I was actually thinking about that exact thing, that I felt, again, now this is back-to-back weeks I'm saying this, at some point, does it become a trend? Is it a problem? But I thought that was more about the Bills. And people want to say, okay, Drake May's for real? Fair. They're no push over the Patriots. You can talk all about their easy schedule, but they went to Buffalo and won. All of that is certainly fair, and that's open season now after what we saw on Sunday night. But again, I thought that was about the Bills and their mistakes and their sloppiness on the field. And we saw a similar performance in that vein against the Saints. So you better not see it again. But, yeah, I thought that result was more about the Bills than these large, big-picture takeaways with the Patriots.
What do you think of the Falcons, who the Bills get Monday?
I actually don't mind the Falcons as much as most people do. They use their draft to attack the defensive side of the ball, and a lot of those guys are contributing right away. They picked them on just about every level of that defense, and it's, I don't want to say immediate impact, but they did what they had to do. That was a problem with the team, and everybody knew it, and they're playing much better. Now, have they seen an offense like this? No. I like Penix overall, but we still have to see it. Last year, it was against some soft opponents at the end of the year, which how much was really on the line? Not quite sure about it. But, the offense, you have to love the weapons that they have, and the defense is improving. So I don't mind them that much. This number, 4.5, both Monday night games, the exact same point spread, almost the exact same total as well. This has got to be a spot where the Bills bounce back. It's got to be. But, yeah, I'm not down on the Falcons like many others are most years.
Okay. You probably, knowing the people you know, you probably could get Bijan Robinson to lead Week 6 in rushing. I don't hate it.
Yeah. Later in the week, they usually, maybe it's out there now, they usually will post stuff like that. But, yeah, with his usage, that's not a bad idea. Last couple of years with Zach Robinson there, you don't hear those same complaints about the usage for Bijan.
One more, Joe, and feel free to hang up before taking this question if you so choose. Hockey starts tonight. So, the season is already 2 days in.
Yes.
14 games tonight, Sabres and Rangers. Do you have any hockey takes? No is fine to say. If you don't, you don't.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I'll be honest. Last week, I remember listening to a promo, and you guys are reading off Sabres legends, and I was like, who are these people?
Yeah, well, they might as well be backup tight ends playing on Thursday night.
yes, pretty much. Let's go Bellinger.
Bellinger's. We'll focus on him. The Yankees have left us. One Bellinger leaves. Another enters, takes the stage.
Mike, I can't end this conversation without
Skubal.
bringing up tomorrow.
Yep. They're Detroit minus 150 to win tomorrow, something like that.
No, they're an underdog.
They are?
Yes.
Oh, I thought I saw different. Good. No, this is better.
Let me double check on that. Yeah, and I just checked the World Series MVP number. It is, I want to say 35, half of what it was.
Joe,
I've got
Detroit minus 143 on the money line.
Let me see.
Tomorrow. Just the game.
That was not the case this morning.
Okay.
I'll just say that. Wow.
You must have said something and it moved.
I don't know about that, but maybe people came to their senses. But I don't get that. Yeah, Seattle was a favorite this morning.
So it's a World Series award, but
yeah,
right? Like this is if they win tomorrow, this is the perfect series for this narrative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a World Series award, but you're putting it into the brain of the voters that this guy is the MVP of the team, and he comes in Game 5 after. Are they going to beat him a second time in this series? I would highly doubt it. And short rest, they're not worried about that. Like, And he's clearly the most valuable guy. It's not even close on that team.
And the Jays hit at will against the Yankees. If Detroit somehow wins that round, which I'm not sure I'll root for. I love the Jays. I think that's a really impressive team. But if that happens, I mean, Skubal, then he's Bumgarner. That was the thesis of the play, was that this guy would be Bumgarner in 14.
Yep. Yeah, baseball's interesting tonight. I don't think there's much there with the Cubs in Game 4. They destroyed Boyd to start this series, and he's not great. But Philly can steal this one. They have the better starting pitcher, even though I'm a fan of Glass now tonight. Going back to Philly, that's not a comfortable spot for the Dodgers.
I agree. I like Sanchez a lot. We'll see. He was in the Cy Young conversation this year himself in the NL. Thank you, Joe. Always a great time.
Thanks, Mike.
Joe Ostrowski, Bet Sweats, weekday mornings, 9 to noon. Listen for Joe on Sunday morning as well on the Bet 1520 and the Odyssey app. Chris Trapasso at 4. No Bulldog today, hopefully tomorrow. Sabres and Rangers pregame at 6. The season opener tonight here on WGR. to get a little sneaky here. Give you a, I don't know, quote, hot take, and then go right back to commercials before Chris Trapasso comes on. But I'll be open to this later. I think of myself as somebody that loves nostalgia. Maybe not exactly a traditionalist. I also like, 6-7 different uniforms in, I think that was subconscious. In sports, I don't need you to wear the same jersey every day, every year. I like different. I don't think the standing buffalo works on the Bills, throwback. I don't think it works. Like, I'm looking at a picture from them a half an hour ago of the helmet they're going to wear Monday night. And, it's a classic logo and colors and everything. We know it. But the helmet is so much more modernized. Like, it's this newfangled helmet where you've got, look at it. It's obviously way better for you to wear than maybe one that I have in my basement that would have been the standing buffalo helmet from the 1960s. So this is good. It almost looked what do I want to call these? Like the lines and the holes in the helmet almost make it look like there should be a phone on top of it, like the helmet phone from the drafts in the 80s. You should be able to pick up the middle and make a call. And there's that cord there. There should be a cord. You should be able to dial from the current helmets. And the throwback, it has to fit within those lines, the buffalo. And then you've got the blue stripes like the real helmet, and that's not authentic. That's not throwback to their, is it? To their 60s helmet? I don't think it is. I can't give you my vote, throwback standing buffalo helmets. I can't give you my vote. Love the idea. That's it. There's my hot take. Oh, it's time for a break. Chris Trapasso next here on WGR.
Sabre season gets underway tonight as they will host the New York Rangers. 6 p.m. pregame, a 7 p.m. puck drop. And in net tonight for the Sabres, Alex Lyon set to get the start. And then some good news on the blue line as well. Both Owen Power and Matthias Samuelsson are expected to play. For the Bills, they also got back to work today. We did get the official injury report. 2 players did not practice, Matt Milano and TJ Sanders, while 7 players were limited. Dion Dawkins, DeMar Hamlin, Dalton Kincaid, Ed Oliver, Taylor Rapp, Curtis Samuel, and Dorian Williams. We'll get more on the Bills coming up in about an hour at 5. Sal Capaccio will join the show. And then the Barnes Firm Injury Report. It is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help? Call 1-800-8-MILLION. Week 6, though, is going to get underway tonight. Thursday Night Football, the Giants host the Philadelphia Eagles. Kickoff at 8:15 over on Amazon Prime. You can also listen to the game over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And then some notable injuries. Wide receiver Darius Slayton out for the Giants, and the same for Eagles guard Landon Dickerson. Then in baseball, just 2 games tonight. Dodgers host the Phillies at 6, then at 9, Brewers at Cubs. LA and Milwaukee are the 2 teams that advance tonight with a win. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
All right, what's the report from outside?
I was outside for maybe 3 minutes. I counted 8 Q-tips. It's got to be one person that just throws their Q-tips out the window when they're done using them in their cars.
It's Mike Schopp.
One person?
More than one person using Q-tips and throwing them outside?
I don't think I use 8 Q-tips in a year.
I think I've never used 8 Q-tips.
And the Bulldog.
What the hell is going on out there? I don't think I want to work in a place where people roll their windows down if they're using Q-tips for Lord knows what and just throw them on the ground.
Well, you do.
What, is it the 70s?
Oh, that's not very nice.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Driving on the highway 65 miles an hour. I get a little left in my soda from the fast food drive. Out the window. That was the 70s. Who gives an F about anything?
Throw a burrito out the window.
Nothing matters. 2025, what are you doing?
On WGR.
Throwing Q-tips out of your car.
Sports Radio 550.
I don't remember my father ever throwing pop out the window just to defend the 70s, or at least him, for a moment. But I do remember there being ashtrays in our cars as kids. That you don't often see anymore. That was a regular thing. There'd be an ashtray. And he was not a smoker, so we didn't even use these ashtrays, but there they were. That you don't see anymore. Maybe now you could use them for Q-tips, but they're not there. Chris Trapasso with me. This is cool. Chris has been with us many years, running now around the NFL draft. Every once in a while during the season, we like to check in and sort of update our takes. You can check out Chris's All 32 YouTube show for his analysis on the NFL team by team. Chris, how's that going?
It's been a lot of fun. I've done 3 episodes, and I just try to find one stat nugget, usually in the advanced stats realm, which is kind of what everyone wants today, a film observation, or just a general take on all 32 teams. It's 1 to 2 minutes for each team, and it's been a lot of fun recording it and starting to get a few more views, as probably will be the case, or hopefully will be the case as this series, all 32, continues.
Good. To whatever extent this counts as advanced, is your analysis through 5 weeks that the Bills' offense is actually good?
Are you asking me if I think it
is good?
It is good?
Yes. Is it Is it good? Is it great? What is it exactly, in your opinion?
I think it is very good, and we've seen it be great. We've seen it underwhelm a little. I think if you're referencing the advanced stats in terms of EPA per play and EPA per dropback per rush, it's been very good. I think, let's just say, and maybe this is what everyone wants, or a lot of your callers want, if in one of these games, say the throw early to Keon Coleman against the Saints was completed, a downfield throw, then I think everyone would be less worried about this Bills offense. They can run the ball well. They use the underneath game very well. And what I thought, even against the Patriots, which a lot of people would say was maybe their worst game so far offensively because of the turnovers, they still can really spread the football around. And you can have a drive where it's, oh, man, that was a Khalil Shakir drive. Oh, no, that was a Dalton Kincaid drive. Now they're getting Curtis Samuel involved. They're getting the running backs involved. I like that they started to utilize Ty Johnson a little bit more, even though James Cook, I think, is running better than he ever has. So if you factor all these things together, I think it is still one of the best offenses in the NFL. But us locally here feel like, they've been like C+ to B- so far. They're still averaging close to 30 points a game, or right around 30 points a game. So I still think it is one of the league's elite offenses.
Where do you think the passes to Johnson have gone? Like, how has that dried up? You're saying you like him, I think. He has one catch in 5 games. I mean, I never really did think he had to be the best third down back in the league, but he was certainly useful for them. He's made big plays. Is that coming back?
Yeah, I mean, you would think that maybe if it's not this weekend or this Monday against the Falcons, after the bye week where the Bills can go back to the drawing board a little bit and toss out some philosophies or some plays that aren't working well, and then maybe harken back to like what you're mentioning last year, that Ty Johnson, when he was on the field and it was third down, it felt like there was going to be a big play that could happen, whether it was schemed to him on a wheel route, like we saw multiple of those in Detroit last year, or great at just getting open and having that rapport with Josh Allen, like the touchdown in the wild card game against the Denver Broncos. So that's one thing that simultaneously it's been actually made me be okay with the Bills running the ball finally after like 2 or 3 years of James Cook, where he's running, making guys miss, playing with a lot more power, that I'm quote unquote okay with it, so to speak, when they're actually handing the football off as opposed to a Josh Allen pass. But I would like to see more Ty Johnson utilized, just getting between 3 to 7, maybe even 10 touches a game, as opposed to James Cook as the clear feature back in this offense.
And quickly, do you have a thought on Ray Davis? Like Cook getting the higher percentage of the snaps now versus recent years. Davis has not gotten off at all so far. I don't know if he looks different to you.
I mean, we've barely seen him. I mean, I would say outside of the Jets Monday Night Football game last year where he filled in for James Cook and had over 100 yards from scrimmage, to me, Ray Davis is kind of just a guy. I think while he's just a guy on your roster, barely making any money as a 4th-round pick, they should utilize him a little more. But if you're or anyone is expecting him to be, this yards after contact monster or make a lot of guys miss or run with breakaway speed, like none of those things are his game. I think he has a decently well-rounded game, and that's why he was a 4th-round pick, and he was productive, with multiple 1,000-yard seasons at 2 different schools in college. But when he's on the field, I'm never I don't have the same feeling as I do, and especially did last year with Ty Johnson. Like, oh, this could be a big play, and it's James Cook's not going to get injured on this play on the sideline. To me, Ray Davis should be utilized, but he's not one that I'm like, man, he should get 6 to 10 carries or touches a game, because I don't really think he provides more than what's blocked for him.
I see. I think I agree. Chris Trapasso, my guest here on the West Shore Hotline. So I wanted to talk about quarterbacks with you, as we often do, like the young guys, as we think about what we thought of them coming into the league and how it's going. Before we start down that path, though, since we're talking about the Bills and what you're seeing through 5 weeks, what about defensively? We're certainly getting more scrutiny about when it's not like, do they have somebody who can actually get open? That take. About what they are on defense. They've been beaten against the run. Last week you had Diggs in that game with New England have a big night. And there are going to be guys coming back. Do you feel generally secure in what they are on defense or not?
Right now, no. I think they're trying to find their own identity because, and I know this sounds kind of silly to say that they put all their eggs in the basket of a first-round pick who hadn't played, that's 21 years old, in Maxwell Hairston, but all offseason, and I'm sure you guys talked about it, the Bills hinted after the AFC title game, we really wanted to be able to play more man coverage. We couldn't really do it with Rasul Douglas, some of the pieces that they had at corner. So they draft the guy that runs 4.28 with a 39.5-inch vertical, that is the twitchiest corner in the draft, essentially, that has man coverage ability. They bring in Ryan Nielsen, who was a defensive coordinator in Jacksonville and Atlanta, man coverage rates near the top of the league. They just haven't been able to run that much man coverage, and I think they went into at least training camp or the preseason hoping that would be the case. Suddenly it's, Tre'Davious White in the twilight of his career, and I think they're generating pressure at a decently good rate, and I think especially against New England the last 2 games, the blitz packages have started to get home a little bit more frequently than they did last year, but the coverage behind it just has not been great because in a lot of those situations, you do have to play man coverage. They just don't have the horses to do it right now. And what I think is almost as low-hanging of a fruit as, these receivers are not getting open on a consistent basis, the tackling has just not been good. There have been times Taylor Rapp, Cole Bishop, Dorian Williams, Terrell Bernard even, they're right there. Like, the scheme is working, and they are in the right gap. They're waiting for the ball carrier, and they're just whiffing. So I know every coach will say, hey, we want to tackle better, but that has been something since day one in 2017 that Sean McDermott has preached, not just for his linebackers, but for his defensive backs. So it'll be interesting to see against Drake London and Bijan Robinson and guys that can create after the catch how well the Bills can tackle in this Monday Night Football game and then entering the bye week.
Right. So in the game against Atlanta, it's Michael Penix, the Bills' first look at the second-year Falcons quarterback. What do you think so far? It seems like a team, as we've talked about this week, that's been tough to, get, I guess, where they've had good and bad. Their last game was pretty good, at least offensively, a win over Washington. Do you like what Penix looks like?
I do. I think he looks like, he played, 4 or 5 games at the end of last season, probably should have been in the starting lineup earlier, but he looks like a quarterback that is very inexperienced. And 2 weeks ago, or I guess 3 weeks ago now because they were on the bye last week, they got shut out in Carolina against a Panthers defense that outside of J.C. Horn, it is hard, and maybe Derek Brown, the defensive tackle, it's hard to pick out some of the names on that defense. And in that game, I actually did a video on this on TikTok, talked about it on All 32. His footwork was as bad as any quarterback as I've ever seen. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a quarterback coach and know all the mechanics, but I'm talking he's a lefty, obviously. His feet are pointing down the seam or to the right side of the field, and he's trying to throw the ball to the left side of the field. It was almost like he just overly trusts his arm. Had 2 interceptions in that game. One was a really bad pick six in his deep in his own end. But the following week, last week against the Commanders, the footwork issues, I don't want to say that they were totally eradicated, but he was a lot better with his footwork. So I think at times, like we probably saw and probably can remember back to Josh Allen in 2018, when he gets under pressure, gets a little antsy, the footwork can go haywire. He is overly confident in his arm and can put the ball in some precarious situations. But he has a strong arm. He's going to be super aggressive. He's not afraid to make a tight window throw. And he has Drake London and Kyle Pitts, 2 big receivers that even if they're really not open, they can do that Keon Coleman type stuff and probably at a better rate than Coleman, but those similar type throws where they can go up and get it. So he's been good so far. You can see the flashes, but there have been those very low lows where you can tell, this quarterback is not quite there yet. Okay.
I started down the quarterback road, but now I'm thinking I want to ask you what you think of Coleman right now.
Okay, I definitely get a lot of players wrong in the draft. I've been on here. I talked about Elijah Badger. He doesn't even get drafted. I love, a bunch of other guys. The Keon Coleman thing, someone could go into the audio vault and go back to 2 years ago in our lead-up when you guys had me on every week, and that was awesome, talking about Keon Coleman. Nothing has really changed. He's still near the bottom of the league in separation. Every once in a while, he can make this spectacular play where he, looks like he has a 45-inch vertical, jumps over a guy like he did in that Patriots game. But then there's 2 or 3 that he looks like he's never caught a jump ball before. And beyond that, is he giving you a lot of yards after the catch? Is he really strong and powerful after the catch? Not really. He's big, but he's not like Mike Evans. He's not Brandon Marshall. He's not Jordy Nelson. So he's kind of played exactly like he did at Florida State. Very much boom or bust, and a lot of the play in between the boom and bust is just he's not going to get open. So unless Josh Allen is just forcing him the football like he has, I think, a little bit too much, the production is just probably not going to be there, especially when he's lining on the outside and he is seeing teams' number 1 cornerbacks that are usually the biggest, the longest, with the most athleticism and ability to play man coverage.
Mm-hmm. Does Atlanta have that? Do you know? Does Atlanta have?
A.J. Terrell had the one season, I think in 21, he was like a second-team All-Pro. he's not. I mean, he's athletic and he's long, but like I said, all teams' number one corners are usually, like have those attributes. So no, I mean, I wouldn't say at this point though he's someone that you're like, oh man, he's just going to totally lock down Keon Coleman. But again, even with more motivation and he's more determined, apparently, even though obviously he was probably late for a meeting or whatever the reason that he didn't play that first series that Sean McDermott said. Despite all that, he's still the same player. He's not, I don't think, ever going to be a super savvy, super dynamic route runner that's going to get open on a routine basis. What I will say is interesting, even though he only had 4 catches for 23 yards in the score against the Patriots, he was in the slot 31% of the time against New England, which was the highest percentage in the slot that he has been in the NFL with the Bills. I know I mentioned it. You guys mentioned it. You probably had Matt Harmon on your show, and he mentioned that is the route for Keon Coleman just because there's more space there. So I wonder if that continues where they say, yeah, we don't really like the A.J. Terrell matchup. Let's reduce him into the slot and get him against, 5'10", 185, and then he probably feels more confident and Josh feels more confident throwing the back shoulder ball or the fade in the end zone to him.
Makes good, logical sense. With Chris Trapasso here on WGR. Also Monday night, Chicago at Washington, which, of course, that's Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. We just had Drake May, signature win probably for him so far Sunday night. Your top 3 picks from last year's draft. How do you stack these guys up right now? I think Williams, it read really bad. Tyler Dunn stuff on him and just the Bears process in drafting him. It's been bumpy, but I'm kind of optimistic right now. He's done enough right. I'm not the analyst you are in terms of film study, but I'm kind of bullish on Williams at this point, and I'm not sure if I'm on my own there. Daniels has already won Offensive Player of the Year, and May looks like, pretty much that guy so far with New England. So as these drafts go, the top 3, at least overall, from last year, I would think you would say pretty positive.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about all of those players and about Caleb Williams, because I have felt kind of like on my own island that I thought last year was bad. He took the most sacks in the league, and usually a lot of young quarterbacks, even the really talented ones who go on to have great careers, take a ton of sacks early on. That's the one area of their game that they usually need to get out of their game by year 2, year 3, year 4. Josh Allen took a lot of sacks early on as well. But I didn't think Caleb Williams was horrific last season, as bad as the narrative was. I think there's a lot of pressure in Chicago, and then the Tyler Dunn stuff comes out before the season. So, yeah, I'm bullish on him, too. I think it's starting to click for him a little, and some of those wayward misses aren't as frequent as they were, maybe during that 10-game losing streak last year or early this season. But I think you kind of put a ribbon on that perfectly, or that all 3 of them look the part. They're not all there yet. They're not all pros, but obviously Jaden Daniels, total game changer. Drake May hasn't had the wins, but he just has the signature win over the Bills and has played good football and has done a good amount with not a ton of talent there in New England and a team that's certainly rebuilding. And I think maybe Caleb Williams felt like he was already arriving when he was the number 1 overall pick. It's taken him some time to kind of go through some of those, to get over some of those hurdles. And I think you see not even just flashes. You can see 2 or 3 series in a row where you're like, whoa, I can tell that he really should have been the number 1 overall pick. I can see he deserved to be that number 1 overall pick. And I have to feel a lot of faith in his tandem with Ben Johnson because I think he's one of the best play designers in the NFL.
Bills fans don't want to hear it, but that looks like that could be a very high upside with him, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%. And all 3 of those quarterbacks, I was high on all 3 of them in my NFL draft algorithm that I call resin. They were all very, very high. Ironically, Josh Allen is still the highest quarterback in my resin system, but they were not far behind. So that was a draft where it's is one of these guys really low? The year before, Bryce Young, I did not love. The traits were not there. My system, my objective, numerical system did not like Bryce Young whatsoever. And you're seeing that with Young, that you're like, man, how is he the first overall pick, being as small as he is with his weak of an arm? With Williams, with May, and with Jaden Daniels, the traits are through the roof. And I think maybe Williams would be the shakiest one of this, but I think they all have a pretty good head on their shoulders and understand that they need to get better, that they need to learn how to read coverages. And I think for Williams, more so than May or even Daniels, that we're kind of thinking of big plays, learning how to take the check down and not always be searching for those home runs. And we certainly know that here in Buffalo. That was a key component to Josh Allen going from, the Josh Allen experience or sugar high Josh Allen to the player that he is today.
One more, we can fit this in, I think, Chris, if you have time, is Cam Ward. I haven't watched him at all yet. I mean, the results don't look great, but it feels like also it could be a pretty dysfunctional organization there. They do get the win somehow in Arizona.
That was crazy.
Can you be optimistic here? Is it too soon to not be?
I think it's probably a little bit too soon not to be optimistic. The first 4 weeks were not very good at all, and I did not really see any of those flashes. And maybe this is 1 out of 1,000 victory that they just had over the Arizona Cardinals. We may look back and say that was the game where the lights kind of came on for Cam Ward, because in that fourth quarter, he completed, I think he was like 13 of 16. It was a similar second half to what Drake May had against the Bills. It was like 13 of 16 at 9 yards per attempt. And there was 2 throws to Calvin Ridley, one down the seam that was like a Josh Allen throw that was like 45 yards on a line, perfectly in stride. And then later in the game, to set up the game-winning field goal, a perfect bucket throw against tight coverage down the sideline to Calvin Ridley. So I still don't have much faith in that organization in terms of its roster right now. The offensive line isn't good. His receivers are, and the defense is kind of a no-name defense. But for the first time this season in watching Cam Ward, I don't want to say he orchestrated the comeback because it was more that the Cardinals gave it away, but he had the opportunity to get that comeback win. And in that fourth quarter, he was very good.
Right on. All right. So all 32 at YouTube. What else are you working on, Chris, if anything you want to mention?
Just doing my TikTok film video. So those 2 social networks, which is a little different from what it's been for me in the past. Appreciate anyone watching the videos, subscribe. You know how it all goes.
Are you into next year's draft yet? I'm guessing you are.
Not yet. No? I mean, we talked about Ty Simpson, who is pretty fascinating.
We did, yes.
Which I appreciate that, because any of the heads up early helps. I usually wait until a little after Halloween into November when these guys have played a few more games to start to dig into the next year's draft.
Okay. This is the Alabama quarterback who I was just randomly watching. I guess that was the Georgia game.
Yeah.
And, this guy's awesome. I don't know. Is the Alabama – well, it's happened, but I wasn't really expecting it. And I was super impressed, so I had to text Chris my take. Thanks for taking my call in that case, Chris. Yeah. All right. Thanks for your time today as well.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Chris Trapasso with us here on WGR, and you just heard how you can get more of his content. Yeah. Why was I watching? Probably a bet, or everybody in my family was out of the house, so what else do you do on a Saturday? Turn on a college game? I think it was probably a bet, let's be honest. Okay, well, we got a little time here before our next guest, who will be Sal at 5. The Sabres home to the Rangers tonight, pregame at 6. Paul Hamilton will join me then. 803-0550 is the number to get in on the Bills or the Sabres. Yesterday, I constructed this somewhat, for me, elaborate talking point on the Bills, and I just looked up and lines were completely jammed with people who wanted to say what they don't like about this team right now. And maybe you're sort of waiting for your chance. This could be your chance. I'm not asking you to be negative. I'm just saying, we got a little time here. Sal at 5, Paul at 6, Sabres at 7. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
starts tonight. They host the New York Rangers, 6 p.m. pregame, 7 p.m. puck drop. In net tonight for the Sabres, Alex Lyon set to get the start, and then good news on the blue line. Both Owen Power and Matthias Samuelsson are expected to play. For more on the lead up to the season, our own Paul Hamilton has articles up at our website, WGR550.com. For the Bills, they also got back to work today. Just 2 players did not practice, Matt Milano and TJ Sanders. 7 players, though, were limited. Deion Dawkins, DeMar Hamlin, Dalton Kincaid, Ed Oliver, Taylor Rapp, Curtis Samuel, and Dorian Williams. We'll get more on today. Sal Capaccio joins the show in just about a half hour at 5. And the Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Week 6 gets underway tonight, Thursday Night Football. Giants host the Eagles. Kickoff at 8:15. It's going to be over on Amazon Prime, or you can listen to the game over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. Some notable roster moves for tonight's game. Wide receiver Darius Slayton, he is out for the Giants, while the Eagles, the same can be said for guard Landon Dickerson. Eagles, though, have also made some moves, bringing people up. They've activated linebacker Nakobe Dean from IR and have elevated defensive tackle Gabe Hall from the practice squad. And then around the rest of the NFL, no practice again for quarterbacks Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson, along with Brock Purdy, and then 2 wide receivers to keep an eye on, also not practicing, Xavier Worthy and Terry McLaurin. Then in baseball, just 2 games tonight. Dodgers host the Phillies at 6, then at 9, Brewers at Cubs. LA, Milwaukee, they are the 2 teams that can advance tonight with a win. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
The Keon Coleman thing, I mean, someone could go into the audio vault and go back to 2 years ago in our lead-up when you guys had me on every week talking about Keon Coleman. Nothing has really changed. I mean, he's still near the bottom of the league in separation. Every once in a while, he can make this spectacular play where he, looks like he has a 45-inch vertical, jumps over a guy like he did in that Patriots game. But then there's 2 or 3 that he looks like he's never caught a jump ball before. And beyond that, is he giving you a lot of yards after the catch? Is he really strong and powerful after the catch? Not really.
Chris Trapasso, I mean, the Bills are doing it again through 5 games. No dominant at all target hog in their offense. It goes like this. In terms of catches, at least, and targets would probably mirror this, but Shakir 22, Coleman 21, Dalton Kincaid 20, Cook and Palmer 12, and then 6th place would be Knox with 6. More catches than Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, Ty Johnson, maybe interestingly, Shavers as well. 20. I mean, look, this we've been here. We know this is not a. It probably sounds like it, but exactly a referendum. It is maybe on just sort of how they've built this. You can't argue with the results, but there is no clear leader in this area. And it's easy to paint that as a good thing. It's also easy to paint there being one as a good thing. Detroit has Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? Like he has 6 touchdown catches, 35 catches, over 400 yards. Like he's the number one guy pass offense wise to deal with in Detroit. And then you've got Gibbs and Montgomery, who are, to say the least, good enough as a running attack to make life a little bit easier for the quarterback there and for the receivers. But there is not that with the Bills, as we know. The Bills and the Lions are each conference's respective betting favorite to go to the Super Bowl. Imagine a Bills-Lions Super Bowl. You probably have. We haven't been that far away from it in the last couple of years. I just think of those, when I think of the Bills and Lions together, I think of those preseason games every year. The Ralph Wilson, special, the last game of the preseason. And as that got older, nobody would ever play, and just like frankly, kind of a waste of time that game was. But it was always the Bills and the Lions. And right now, they are the respectively AFC and NFC Super Bowl favorites. Despite the loss to New England, the Bills, at the one app I'm looking at now, are the clear number one choice. And that's largely, I mean, of course, it's the reputation and who they are, but it's also their odds of winning their division and being the one. I mean, that is a big element in what goes into these, these odds, these numbers. How likely are they to be the home team? How likely are they to get the bye? This kind of thing. And the Bills have that over the Chiefs. Would the Bills be favored this week in Kansas City? I think no. And again, that's not like a huge take or anything. They have been favored in Kansas City, I think, a couple of times in these regular season games. I don't think they would be this week, but I don't know. Kansas City's issue is their record. And being in a division with Denver and the Chargers, who are both at least pretty good, that will make it hard for them to win the AFC West and, then to get home field. Like, that's obviously what that's about. So it goes Bills, Chiefs, Colts. The Colts have the record, and they do look really good. They don't have the history, the recent history of, excellence that would give them maybe the benefit of the doubt here. And they also have Jacksonville and, for that matter, Houston, two teams that could end up pushing them. That's why this whole point is why New England is so important. If New England goes away, so to speak, then I think you got it. I mean, I think you should get the one. You should kind of sail to the playoffs and be able, to the best extent that you can control this, to be able to sort of set yourself up for success. That's extra. This was the case last year too, but they didn't get the one. They had to go on the road ultimately in the AFC Championship. But just, whether that's matchups, rest, different ways you can play that. If you can, again, get to week 15 even and have the AFC East wrapped up, man, it's got to be such a big edge. Didn't help them last year. Part of that was they were still chasing the Chiefs. And so those late season games were still big. They were never going to sit guys for the playoffs' sake in weeks 15 through 17. Then they got to 18, and they could afford it because the Chiefs had gotten to the point where they were out of reach. So then you have the game where Allen plays one play and guys are coming off the field. So that's the Bills' biggest edge right now in the odds, is that they have what looks like the best chance of winning their own division. If New England stays good, then that would complicate this. NFC is really interesting. Like right now, what is the best bet? Who is the best bet to win the NFC? Detroit has Green Bay. Green Bay has Detroit. They each also have Minnesota for what it's worth. Philadelphia is sort of the version of the Bills with what maybe is the smoothest trip to the division title. But I don't know. Like, Washington made that tough last year. I like Dallas for the price for this. NFC West could be anybody's. I mean, anybody's. That is just four teams that are all pretty good. That could go all the way. And when you look at odds, it makes it really tough to... You get a good price if you guess it right. But to sort of lean on somebody, because I think the division is so even. And then NFC South, you would have, Tampa would be a pretty big favorite there. Atlanta would be second. Carolina, New Orleans, nowhere near. Maybe Tampa is the bet. All their games are close. It's San Francisco at Tampa Bay this week. And I think that's a 3-point line. Maybe because every Buccaneers game is like a 3-point game, right down to the end. Great win in Seattle. Tampa is 10-1 to win the NFC. I could see that happening. They get Evans back. Eventually they get Bucky Irving back, probably even earlier, maybe. And Mayfield is really on a roll for the Bucs. And they've won that division 4 years in a row, which is kind of stealth. People don't think of the Bucs maybe as like being on the kind of run the Bills are in their own division, but they almost are. And the division has been pretty weak, but so has this one. So it goes Detroit, Green Bay, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Rams, Washington, Tampa. And then there's a big drop in who wins the NFC prices down to Seattle at plus 2,200, Minnesota right there with Seattle and then way down even further to Dallas. I'm not sitting here like thinking all that about the Lions, but I probably should be. And I think why I'm not is that before the season, the Lions had both their coordinators leave. It's another kind of one of these things that the Bills have been lucky with. And, it's not all luck. Like, they've been so stable with their coaching staff. Detroit, Ben Johnson, maybe this will be Joe Brady next year. We should talk about it at some point. He goes, and then what's that going to look like? Defensive Aaron Glenn leaves for the Jets. Two key offensive linemen leave. Are they all key? One retires, one leaves in free agency. And it seemed to me like they were a little bit inflated. Like they had a great season, a lot of defensive injuries. Maybe they were the best team in the league themselves before it all fell apart. They lost Hutchinson, Detroit, but Philadelphia wins it, and they get the credit for this, like the best roster. So I was kind of off Detroit. I didn't want to draft Jahmyr Gibbs at 105. I didn't want to draft St. Brown at 112. I never wanted to draft Laporta. Just felt like the Lions, I don't want to say would implode, but a step back for sure. I don't think we've seen it. And so here they are with Green Bay being as good as they've looked. The Lions are still the top choice in the NFC. I think they've earned that. But I have I'm sort of fighting against it. I have a tough time just sort of accepting that the Lions are the best. I don't know why. I should just do that. Who is it then? I don't really love the Eagles. Like if it's not Detroit, who is it? You'd have to say they make sense as the conference favorite. Coming up, Sal Capaccio at 5, The Line. Those of you who've been with us a long time know it's that time of the week. Closing in on 5 o'clock on a Thursday, The Line. So a little bit more on what the odds look like with this week in mind coming up. This is Mike Schopp on WGR. Another beautiful day Well, hate to give it all away, so I won't. Picks are tomorrow. Bulldog isn't even here. Hopefully he's here tomorrow, or else he is officially eliminated from picks. That's the rule. You have to come in, or else you get zeros. And if it's your third straight day missed, you're out. See, your season is over. We'll see. I don't want to give it all away. I haven't even gotten to a point where I have that many strong feelings on this weekend's games. I usually don't end up with that many strong feelings on games because I think it's really hard and almost impossible to know what's going to happen. So that's kind of been my attitude about it. It's probably saved me a lot of money. However, it's time now for The Line, presented by FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. I am going to be with the Giants tonight, which, doesn't sit great, but plus 7.5 with the rookie Jackson Dart, home to a Philadelphia team that I think has problems. Defensively, they're not the same. Offensively, who knows? I mean, you've got Saquon Barkley's numbers have really tanked this year. Hopefully you didn't draft him, at least so far. And, a lot of you did because he was a very popular pick, even at 1 overall in places. And A.J. Brown seems miserable, if you just believe what you read from A.J. Brown. So the Giants, it's not all great vibes. They lose to the Saints last week, but they get the win the week before against the Chargers. And I will take, at FanDuel, I'll be doing this, 7.5 with the Giants tonight. The total is 40.5, so you're looking at like a 24-16 kind of game for the Eagles. I don't know. I feel like the Giants can do more than just 16 points. They've lost Malik Neighbors, of course, and now they're going to play without Darius Slayton. So if this isn't within the FanDuel scope, my apologies. It can be. Prop bets, DFS. Wan'Dale Robinson sets up really nicely for the Giants if they can get passes off, and I think they will probably be able to. So Robinson, who's a big target earner anyway, now he gets to go without Neighbors or Slayton. I don't think it's going to be a record setter, but there should be a lot there for Wan'Dale Robinson. He's almost a must-start, I think, in fantasy this week. And then you have the tight ends we talked about with Joe Ostrowski. Theo Johnson is kind of this matchup problem. Huge and fast. And I would guess that the Giants want to make him a priority tonight. Joe said, referring to the one segment they do, he and Sam on Bet Sweats, the room loves Theo Johnson, which is to mean that he's a very popular public bet to score a touchdown in this game. And at least I get taking my cues from Joe and Sam, recently, if not historically, that's usually a loser. That you don't want to be betting the most popular public bets. But Johnson became a little bit of a name last week. 2 touchdowns against the Saints. I prefer Daniel Bellinger at 9-1 to score tonight to Theo Johnson at plus 425. So, Giants tonight, Bellinger. I kind of think the Chiefs will beat Detroit. We're talking about Detroit. This is the Sunday night game, and they're giving only 2.5. Why can't that line get to 3? I mean, Detroit's really good is part of that, but the Chiefs with a little bit of a fluky loss on Monday night to Jacksonville, 2-3 now. I mean, it's got to be to the wall here with this game, or else 2-4. Detroit, we might want to send a bouquet of roses to if they win this game, because they almost ended Baltimore, winning the Monday night game there, and then the Ravens go to Kansas City and the wheels come off and Jackson gets hurt and everybody else gets hurt. Kind of the beginning of the end, maybe, of their season. It's not like it's over. And now they get a chance at the Chiefs, too, to put Kansas City to 2-4. I mean, you got to like that it's Detroit in this spot and not like Carolina or something, with the potential to do that to, the 2 other elite teams in the conference going into the season. Kansas City minus 2.5. I thought their offense looked so good against Detroit. Now, Xavier Worthy didn't practice today. Still bothered, maybe by the shoulder, or if it's not that, it's something else. Remember last week, he ended up on the injury report for the Chiefs kind of late but did end up playing against Jacksonville, did have a productive game. I don't know exactly what that is, if he's got something else now or just they're taking it really cautiously with Worthy. So those are a couple of picks that I like. The Bills are 4.5-point favorites in Atlanta. I'm learning at this because when I looked at that line after the Bills' loss, it was 3.5. And, you just sort of logically think there might be an overreaction to the loss. Turnovers are a big part of it. Are the Bills fine? Maybe they're fine. And so I jumped on it at 3.5. Now it's 4.5. And I feel like that's winning football. You're sort of playing the numbers rather than feeling like you should know what's going to happen in games, which is not exactly what I'm good at. So a look at some of the lines in Week 6, which starts tonight. Eagles at Giants. We won't have the game. We'll have the Sabres tonight, of course. Pregame at 6. Paul Hamilton will join me then. Sal Capaccio will join me next. Bulldog is out sick today. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go! All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole. Oh,
Sabre season gets underway tonight as they're going to host the New York Rangers pregame coming up in about an hour at 6 p.m. for a 7 p.m. puck drop. And in net tonight for the Sabres, Alex Lyon expected to get the start. And then some good news from yesterday on the blue line. Both Owen Power and Matthias Samuelsson, they are expected to play. And then for more on the lead up to the season, our own Paul Hamilton has pieces up at our website, WGR550.com. For the Bills, they got back to work today as they are playing on Monday. Just 2 players did not practice, Matt Milano and TJ Sanders, but 7 players were limited. Deion Dawkins, DeMar Hamlin, Dalton Kincaid, Ed Oliver, Taylor Rapp, Curtis Samuel, and Dorian Williams. We'll get more on all of this. Sal Capaccio joins the show next, so do stay tuned for that. And the Barnes Firm Injury Report. It is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. For Thursday Night Football tonight, it is the Giants hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. Kickoff is at 8:15. It's going to be over on Amazon Prime, or you can listen to it over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. Wide receiver Darius Slayton is out tonight for the Giants, as is Eagles guard Landon Dickerson. The Eagles, though, they've also made some other moves. They've activated linebacker Nakobe Dean from IR and have elevated defensive tackle Gabe Hall from the practice squad. And then some other injury notes around the league. No practices again for quarterbacks Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and Brock Purdy. And then 2 wide receivers to keep an eye on. They did not practice either, Xavier Worthy and Terry McLaurin. While in baseball, just 2 games tonight. Dodgers host the Phillies at 6. Then at 9, it's Brewers at Cubs, LA, Milwaukee. They are the 2 teams that can advance tonight with a win. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Capaccio, Sal, Capaccio, Sal, Capaccio, Sal, Capaccio, Sal, Capaccio on WGR.
Not that you asked, but I'm sitting here making a couple of notes with the Sabres game in mind, and I just wrote the name Alex Lyon, but I somehow left off the A, and it just says on my sheet here, Lex Lyon. And I realized I think I like that more. Lex Lyon. Can we go with that? I don't know if anybody's ever thought of that. Sal Capaccio with me now on the West Her Hotline. Sal, by chance, are you headed to the arena tonight?
I am. We are going to the game tonight. I'll be there.
Let me ask you about this then while we're on the subject of the Sabres, which I suppose we are. Does this season, I mean, when you're 0-0, any sport, any team, it's the time to be hopeful. Does this season feel different to you in any way? Like, this is a question I want to ask Paul later. There's always some new players. Not a lot of it's new, though. Do you feel like any particular reason for optimism or anything about this year as it starts that you are, feeling really good about?
I don't know about really good. I'm a bit more optimistic, but I'm generally like that. You know what I mean? I'm kind of an optimistic, hopeful person anyway. So I carry that over and okay, it's 0-0. Like you have a chance here. I think what feels different for me is I think there's just a lot of pressure that everyone knows, and I don't know if even that's the word of they're gonna. This is you need to make the playoffs, and if you don't make the playoffs, there's gonna be changes. And I think we thought that last year. I think there was a lot of that, but I think it's really real this time, which gives me I think they're gonna do whatever they can to try and make that happen. So yeah, I'm kind of excited for that part of it, Mike. To be honest with you, from a standpoint of. They're not going. I don't think they're going to be satisfied with just playing meaningful games in March if they don't actually make it. So I'm listening to you earlier. It's kind of funny because you said, "Give me Valentine's Day," and I love that, but I need more than that this year. I just got to be more because, quite frankly, I think they expect more.
I know. There's 2 months left when it's Valentine's Day.
I know.
It's still a lot of golf left at that point. So, yeah, I mean that's a pretty low bar to clear. You would think. Good. Well, you are, I think, a hopeful person, and I'm glad that tonight's game is sold out because you want to just sort of see if there's going to be positive energy that can sustain, right? I mean, having less than a sellout opening night would have been a story, so at least we avoided that.
I'm concerned about goaltending, obviously. I do think they did a lot of good things on the power play towards the end of the year that'll carry over, and I'm super excited to see Josh Norris, I think, play with this team and play with Tage, and I think he can be a really fantastic player if he can stay healthy, obviously. I think tonight's going to hurt not having Kesselring because, he's, I think, a big part of what they want to do on the blue line. And, that's an area where they really concentrated on. And it kind of reminds me in a little bit of a way of like when McDermott and Bean came in and they traded away Sammy Watkins. And you're like, well, listen, it doesn't look on the surface like we're a better team, but the things we're doing are going to make us better by all these other kind of changes and additions and people we're bringing in to have this or that. It kind of feels like that a little bit, so I'm hoping that's the case.
All right, Sal, so to Bill's business here. Injury-wise, Dalton Kincaid in a non-contact jersey today. What is the story there?
Not really sure. He got injured. He's listed as, let me check here. Do you have it with you there, Mike? I know I was looking at it a little while ago.
No, I should.
What it was, and my apologies, but he, I would not read much into it on a Thursday when there's a Monday night game.
Limited.
It's basically, what's that? Limited. With what's the injury though? I'm saying
oblique.
I can't. Thank you, oblique. You know why? Because I know in the game, the reason I was confused was because I knew it didn't match up within the game. In the game, he actually got hit like he was looking at his hand. It looked like he hurt his hand, and that wasn't the case necessarily because he stayed in the game and all that. But I do remember that. Yes, that's why, because I couldn't match it up. Yeah, I mean, oblique injury could be something that you deal with, and it's not good, but I wouldn't be too concerned. The fact that he's on the field and limited the first day, today is like a normal Wednesday. Let's remember that. So if on a regular Wednesday for a Sunday game, if guys are limited, I'm pretty encouraged that they're going to probably play that week, unless maybe they're coming back from an injury from a couple weeks they missed something, like in Ed Oliver's case or something like that. So I wouldn't really worry too much about that.
Okay. Now. And Curtis Samuel is another one here who played against New England, neck ribs limited. You might say the same thing about his chances of playing. I just wonder if you knew anything to add, had anything to add on him.
No, but he wasn't in the non-contact, so I think that's even more encouraging, right? So, that'll be those will be things we'll get more information on tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a big day. Now, funny thing is, I think it was 7 guys total limited, but Sean McDermott only gave us 3 of them before we went out to practice. And then the other ones are like, okay, did something happen at practice? When that happens, you don't know. You wonder if something happened at practice in the portion we can't watch, or what's going on there. So again, I'd kind of just wait till tomorrow to see on some of these things. I think the more important stuff for me is Ed Oliver back again. Watched him today. I mean, I think he was trending like he was going to play last week, and he didn't. It was close probably. And that, I think, bodes well for this week. And then Dorian Williams, getting him back is a big deal, I think, because you're already without Matt Milano this week most likely. So I think that's a big deal, get him back on a limited basis, but that's encouraging. Injury
status, Samuel, I'm thinking of here, notwithstanding, do you think he's maybe solidly in the lineup, returns? Like, is this going to be his job? Is it that already?
I don't know about that. I feel like it's almost like him and Elijah Moore are kind of battling each week for a roster spot almost, right? Which is, who do we, put in and what do we need on a weekly basis, depending on what team we're playing. I thought it was interesting when Joe Brady asked about Samuel after he was active last week. He said, well, it starts with being able to do kick returns because he's got to contribute other than just being a wide receiver. And I think that's where they are right now. Right now they don't even have Brandon Codrington active. So they need someone else to step up into that role. The reason Brandon Codrington's not active is most likely because they need bodies at corner, and there's only a certain amount of numbers that they have on the team. And if you're not contributing at that position, then we're going to have to do something else. At least Curtis Samuel contribute at wide receiver. So that's probably why. I wouldn't say it's his job necessarily, because I think him and Elijah Moore are, battling. But if he can continue to return kicks, then probably you'll lean that way a little bit.
Right. Nice play that we didn't end up talking much about because the Bills lost the game on the first touchdown Sunday night, where Allen really is the orchestrator there with Samuel in motion, then gives that little hand signal back the other way, quick snap, and it's over. Like that's like a free touchdown on that play that Allen was good to read, and Samuel the beneficiary of that play. Well, it's not great for Codrington. I don't think we ever had any, you could say different, illusions that he could be a contributor in the secondary. But with the secondary in the state it's in, and he's inactive, I mean, I guess that says it all.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, Mike, like last year, he was a boundary corner, and then this year he's a nickel corner. Like, they moved him inside, I think simply because, okay, he's not going to help us in the boundary. Let's see if he can help us at nickel. And obviously that's just, it's not what he can do. I usually laugh at people who say things like this, but I'm going to say it right now. Like, I wonder if Brandon Codrington could be trained to be a running back. I mean, that if it's not going to work at DB,
I know I'm the first person to tell you he's never done it in his life. Yeah, but he's not contributing there, and he's really good with the ball in his hands, I think, going forward. I wonder if that's something that you could do with him eventually and say, you know what? Maybe that's where he would fit and be actually able to be on a practice squad and contribute if you ever need him.
Well, I like that you said it, because sometimes these are the really good ideas. And you say what you say up front because it's so rare that a team will, do something like that. But it does happen, and it makes some sense. I wonder if, I guess they're not doing anything is the bottom line here so far, but I wonder if they think about getting into the running back market, through waivers or something. And I'm not sure what they would think there is right now, but I mean, Cook is healthy. Your guys are healthy, and Cook has been very productive, but they're getting so little out of his associates back there. I wonder what the Bills, how the Bills think that's going, if that's something that worries them.
Yeah, I wonder. I think they probably have more confidence than what you might think in them, except there's just not opportunity right now. They started to get some opportunity last week. That was a tough team they played against the run, though. But I think about, like, Ty Johnson was just so key for them last year. Like, suddenly it's just not materializing. But, again, it's lack of opportunity, too, because James Cook is on the field so often. I mean, they do have Frank Gore Jr. still on the practice squad. I mean, there's worse ideas than that. If they want to turn to somebody and say, can we get a spark as a backup to be able to come in here? He's a lot more like James Cook than he is, Ray Davis necessarily. But sure, if there's a guy out there, I probably find that hard to think that they would do that, considering we've seen this happen before at other positions where you get a guy middle of the season, it takes him a little bit to get up to speed, learn the playbook, all those kinds of things that go into it. And your guy is already here, and he's done a good job for you, whether that's Ray Davis or Ty Johnson, and you just feel that that's going to happen at some point.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Bulldog is off today. I'm Mike Schopp here on WGR. Maxwell Hairston, the latest here, practicing in a brace, but you're starting to see him a little bit, I guess. That's good.
Yes, just to clarify, he's not practicing, actually. I don't want to, I want to make sure everybody knows the terminology on that, because if he was practicing, they'd have to open up his 21-day window.
Okay.
He is working off to the side with a trainer, so he is doing rehab right now. And a couple weeks ago, we had video of him, and I did, of that huge brace he had on his knee. And everybody's like, oh, my God, there's no way he's playing with that brace. And then last week, I think he had the brace on, but you couldn't see it because a sleeve was over it. Today, even someone said, oh, no brace. I'm like, no, I think it's under the sweats that he's wearing, actually. So you don't outwardly see the brace. But, I mean, to me, he's looking like he's, moving well. Today, first time I've seen him do the lateral movement he was doing, the start and stop he was doing. I have some video of that, and you could see all that. Now, Sean McDermott said before practice that none of the guys who are eligible to come off IR would have their 21-day windows open. And I know fans really want to see Max Harrison. I get it. Tyler Bass, too. Tyler Grable. There's some guys there. I just think you have to think about the timing here, right, which is you got one game, and then you get a bye week. And during that bye week, there's certain rules on how often you can practice. They don't practice. You get a 21-day hard practice window for these guys to come back. So let's just say they opened his practice window today. You would get 21 days, but in that 21 days, he might only get like 7 or 8 practices, to be quite honest with you, right? So you got to be careful of that on how you do it, or whatever the number would be, 10 practices, whatever. The point is, I think that you want to maximize the practice opportunities once you do that. So to me, it always screamed it would be after the bye if it was going to happen. And when Sean was asked today, are you confident that Harrison and Tyler Bass will come back this year and play? He said, we'll see. Now, that brings up a lot of alarm bells in fans' minds. I just say, this coach, the way he talks, right? That's just what he does. He doesn't paint himself into a corner. He wants to never put an expectation on something that if it doesn't wind up materializing, it makes everybody look bad.
I know that, and I certainly, hear you when you say that. Yeah. That's a pretty long-range question, though, to say anything but yes to. And I wonder, did he get it in the same question, both guys? Because I think maybe Bass is somebody where it might be a different answer. I mean, Prater's making almost all his kicks, and I don't really know what that is. So he might, I don't know, it could be the other way around for all I know, but he might feel like, Bass is not a sure thing for maybe multiple reasons, and Hairston is closer to one, but why get so specific?
Yeah, I agree. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I don't disagree with that. I agree that he could say it in a different way, that even if he feels like I don't want to paint myself in a corner, maybe it at least gives the less impression of there's some sort of worry or thought that they might not play this year. Or maybe he has that thought they might not play, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just know that, like, generally it's kind of the way he talks, right? Which is, we'll take it, we'll see where it goes, take it day by day, they're improving, we'll see what happens, and that's the reason why. So I think, the way I saw Max Harrison play, moving around today, that's encouraging. It doesn't mean he's going to be on the field anytime soon, but it never seemed to me it would happen before the bye anyway.
Well, I mean, there's so much to say about it, like without knowing exactly what the injury, where it stands. But the bye week point, they're in first place. They did lose the game Sunday night. If they'd won it, this would be easier. There's still a long way to go. I just wonder, and I know what my answer to this would be. Like, there's enough time where I wouldn't want to really worry about it. But you get to a point eventually where, being that Hairston is a rookie and had so little time in camp even, where you'd wonder what you can really get out of him. Like, the idea here is he'd be starting by now. This is a first-round pick. So at some point, I think this year it's going to mean a lot that he's not out there yet, but maybe that's only a couple of games away.
It's a great point you make. I think I've made the same point to people, which is, at this time of year, it's not like you get training camp reps back again. You're not going out there and having all those practices, getting ready and learning the system. It's game planning now, right? I mean, like, if you're going to be a part of the active roster, you're going out to practice for an hour and a half, 2 hours, game planning, and that's not a time to make up for all those reps he missed. Like, you're immersed. So I agree. I don't know how much he would play anyway. I think Cole Bishop is a great example of this last year, right? And people wanted to see Cole Bishop out there, and he missed all that time, and there was a big, clamoring for that. And what happened was he played against the Houston Texans, and because he didn't have that time on task, he got beaten over the top. And Rasul Douglas even said after the game, I should have known to help Cole there and to know not put him in that position, something like that. Like, these are real things, like, you got to think about, which, if they're not ready and they don't know because they don't have that time, haven't been on the field, they could impact and have a critical negative effect on a football game. And those are things that the team thinks about. The other part of this is, you got Hairston, so he could come back. You got Bass, he could come back. When they do, it's not the 21 days. Let's remember how this works now. Once they start practicing, you get 21 days to put them on the active roster, and then you'd have to make a corresponding move. Now, in Hairston's case, they could do what they did with Isaiah Hodgins a few years ago, let's say, which is he can practice, you put him on there, and for 3 weeks he practices with you because you want him to get the reps, but you don't actually put him on the roster, and he actually does just kind of get shut down for the year. That would be an option. But the other issue is, Mike, after next week, they're getting Hoyt and Ogunjobi back. And there's no, unless they waive one of them, they can't just keep them on a suspended list. They go on the roster, and they're going to have to make decisions. That's 2 guys already on top of the 2 guys we're talking about.
Yep. This might not be that great of a take, because I'm not sure it isn't most teams in the league, but the Bills play a number of teams yet this regular season who have a clear wide receiver 1. They have Benford, of course, the Bills too, but Dolphins lost Tyreek Hill. You get Tampa. I guess that's Ibuka already, but Evans, Godwin, if Evans is healthy, Nico Collins, DK Metcalf, Chasen Higgins, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. You've got some really good matchups, or tough matchups, for this secondary. Is that every game almost? Maybe it's most games. Drake London this week. They won't have Hairston for this game, but he's all that. So some interesting challenges. Sal, you'll have Sean McDermott tomorrow morning, I'm guessing?
Yes. We will not get game status for any players. That will not come out until Saturday, so we won't get that from Sean tomorrow.
You don't need any help from me coming up with questions for him, and it's possible maybe you even plan to bring this up. Maybe it's also a question he would answer differently privately. I would love to hear him talk about what Jonathan Gannon did.
Right.
Yeah. That is not McDermott's style. How many times, if ever, have we seen him really lose his temper at a player? I mean, an official once in a while, but even that you see worse. It seems like the kind of thing where he would really have a tough time with what Gannon did for Arizona, screaming at his player, DeMercado, after he fumbled in the end zone on that long run for the Cardinals. I mean, most coaches...
He actually didn't fumble, by the way. Did you see the replays? He had possession of the ball at the goal line. And I mean, there was something on, who was it? Somebody, I can't remember who was on ESPN showing this, like, for the last few days, going, dude, like, this wasn't even a fumble. They looked at it, and he actually had control of the ball. I'm stunned looking at it. They actually said it was a fumble. But the point was still that he did that, yes. When
I saw it, I thought maybe he had made it, but I have no sympathy for the guy that fumbles. I don't want to sit there for 5 minutes looking at replays of this play to see if it should count. But, that's not really fair. Anyway, I bet a lot of coaches would have taken offense to that. The Cardinals themselves fined this coach $100,000 for his behavior. Like, I wonder in the coaching fraternity, so to speak, if there was, I don't know about outrage, but maybe at least disappointment in how Gannon behaved, or if coaches went, yeah, man, I wish I could get away with that once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, Sean rarely answers questions or talks about, like, people on other teams, coaches on other teams, other than to say, they're really good at what they do and things like that. That said, just kind of thinking about, bringing it back to the Bills a little bit and being, upset or whatever, we did hear from Keon Coleman today. And I posted the audio, and Zach has it. But, Sean said, head coach discipline. And he made it clear, like, he was upset, obviously, when this happened. Keon today, for his part, so everybody understands, he was benched for the first series against the New England Patriots. Keon did speak to reporters. He took accountability. He said that he knew, like, what was his reaction, was asked. He said there was no reaction because he kind of expected it, and it was communicated right away from Sean McDermott, and they're on the same page going forward. And he said, he has to do a better job of doing what he's supposed to do and being mature.
Mm-hmm. Last thing, Sal, if you want it, the Yankees, I mean, I got to ask, season is over. How mad should a Yankee fan be about how this season went? Or, is mad not the word?
I think that you always look for reasons to be upset and blame when things like that happen. As a fan, I generally don't. I just think it's sports, and they got beat by better teams, so I'm not mad. I'm upset emotionally. Like, it's cool to have your team in there and go to the ALCS if you can, but I don't. If you want to be mad, I guess you can be mad because the Yankees do rely a lot on analytics, and I think there's a point to be made about maybe Boone relying too much on that, and that's cost them over the course of the season. I'll say they also had a lot of injuries, and they still tied for the best record in the American League, right? I mean, there's a lot of ways you could slice it. So if you want to be mad about that, that's fine. I don't particularly get mad. I get more of a upset that this team has not been in the World Series since 2009, and for them, obviously. I mean, won a World Series since 2009. Yeah. They were in it last year. That's a long time. And but I tip my hat to the Blue Jays, Mike. I mean, they were a machine. They're just so good on offense. They're built the right way. If you want to get mad at that, maybe the Yankees should be built more like that. I know they love home runs. That's the one thing I wish the Yankees did do, was build a little bit more like kind of the Blue Jays and even like the Guardians, which is just athletic, and they can play station to station, and they still get some home runs when they need it once in a while. They play good defense. Like, that's the thing that I get upset about.
Mm-hmm. And, man, Guerrero did.
He's amazing.
He was so good. You always want that from your best guy, because if he's not on, I mean, Judge got that in the home run in Game 3. If your best guy is not basically leading the way, then everybody talks about that, right? You've had this with Judge.
Yep, right.
What do you expect if he's not hitting? How are the rest of them supposed to be hitting? But Guerrero just would not quit, even in that first inning. I mean, it's baseball. The guys get hits 1 out of 3 times, and they're in the Hall of Fame, as they say. Here's Guerrero in the top of the first. Like, he's not going to do this again, right? Rips that ball into the corner in right field for the lead immediately. Like, the pressure's on. And, the Yankees caught up, and it was tied for much of that game, but he just would not quit. And so nice, if you're on his team. When he's on a heater like that. We'll see if he can keep it up.
He played great defense, too, by the way, in this series. And, that was always the criticism of him, as he was a younger player coming up. But he has transformed his body, and he's more athletic and nimble. The rounding third and diving home, all examples of this. And he played great defense. it's very, very hard for me. I will never not like Vladimir Guerrero, right? He doesn't play for my team, and he killed my team. I love Vladimir Guerrero. I loved him when he was in Buffalo. I loved his dad. Watched his dad play. So it's bittersweet for me because, it's the Yankees losing, and I would rather see them win. But I think the Blue Jays are a fun team to watch, and they deserved it.
Did you love Ortiz? There's a certain sort of energy that makes these guys likable like they are. But if, maybe Yankees Red Sox is more deeply rooted. Did you like Ortiz?
I did. I liked Ortiz. I liked Nomar, actually, believe it or not, and Dustin Pedroia. And I hate saying that publicly and on the radio, but I do. Gotcha. I like these guys when they bring it. Like they just love baseball. I think it's the same way like you get a Red Sox fan who says, "Yeah, I really like Jeter," right? Same kind of thing. So yeah, and Ortiz is really good on TV too. I did a whole panel's good actually.
I just can't believe they exist. I can't believe I was in here on a Tuesday afternoon watching David Ortiz, Alex Rodriguez, and Derek Jeter take turns predicting the final score of a Mariners game yesterday, or Wednesday, whatever. But that was the case. All right, I'll let you go here. Thanks, Sal.
All right, thanks.
Sal will join us tomorrow as well. His appearances on WGR brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. Your place to buy a case. What's your outlet? I'm glad he brought up Guerrero's defense, too, because that's part of it. In Game 3, and this is just how I saw it, in Game 3, he got a one bouncer to first. He was in, and there was a runner on first and third, and he came home with it. He might have looked at second, but he came home with it. I think it was Judge who they got in the rundown between third and home for that out. Last night, there was a ball very similar to that, and he went 3-6-3, if it was the shortstop. I mean, 3-4-3, 3-6, whatever it was. Like, that instinct right there paid off for him both times. Not exactly the same ball, but close. And, I guess he was right both times. I wonder if on the one in Game 3, he felt like he couldn't get back to first base in time. Maybe I don't know who the runner was, but he had the right instinct, it would seem, certainly last night. Timeout here. The Sabres open tonight. We'll talk about them some next. You can join me, 803-0550. Bulldog is off. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster. ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. Roller coaster. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster. Oh, roller coaster.
They will open up their season at home against the New York Rangers, a 7 p.m. puck drop. In net tonight, Alex Lyon is expected to get the start, and then some good news from yesterday on the blue line. Both Owen Power and Matthias Samuelsson are expected to play. And then for more on the lead up to this season, our own Paul Hamilton, he has pieces up at our website, WGR550.com. For the Bills, they got back to work today as they'll be playing on Monday at Atlanta. Just 2 players did not practice today, Matt Milano and TJ Sanders, while 7 players were limited. Deion Dawkins, DeMar Hamlin, Dalton Kincaid, Ed Oliver, Taylor Rapp, Curtis Samuel, and Dorian Williams. And the Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Week 6, though, is going to get underway tonight, Thursday Night Football, over on Amazon Prime. It is the Giants hosting the Eagles. Kickoff at 8:15. This game is also over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And then some injury notes and roster moves for this game. Wide receiver Darius Slayton is out for the Giants. Same with Eagles guard Landon Dickerson. And then for the Eagles, they have activated linebacker Nakobe Dean from IR. And they have elevated defensive tackle Gabe Hall from the practice squad. Then in playoff baseball, just 2 games tonight. Dodgers host the Phillies at 6. Then at 9, Brewers at Cubs. LA and Milwaukee are the 2 teams that can advance tonight with a win. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
I think we've been, really detailed with some of the stuff we've been doing, and obviously it's not going to just happen overnight, but I think we've gone good direction building off last year and into camp this year on, the D zone and being hard to play against.
There it is. Welcome back, hockey. Get out your bingo boards. Harder to play against. I mean, that's a corner space right there. That one. What I mean by that's one that one of the more popular phrases. I'm putting that in the corner. I'm not sure the math checks on this, but for me, that's where like the obvious ones. Not you can't use the middle because that's free. Everybody gets that's free space, and all forms of bingo throughout the centuries. That's always a free space. Corner ones, hard to play against, pucks to the net. We had this from Peyton Krebs, who was on with us yesterday, and there were a couple of those drops. And I asked him to define it, or what exactly it means to him, like to be harder to play against, in reference to one player, Justin Danforth, who's likely to be on Krebs' line. And, like, is it just, I mean, not just, but they're kind of always there? They're annoying like that because you can't get away from them. Harder to play against, physical is a part of it. I think it's all pretty obvious. But it's also one of these phrases that just gets used no matter how provably right or wrong it is. It's just like you always will hear somebody say when you're losing that they're not this. They're not hard enough to play against. I think the Sabres can be the same level of difficulty to play against in these sort of traditional cliche-ish ways and be good if they get saves. And, saves don't really get brought up when it's harder to play against. It's just simply harder to score against because the goalie's better. You never hear anybody put it that way, right? We're just harder to score against because the goalie's better. It's just kind of put differently. But I don't think the Sabres' problem needed or needs to be this sort of grit thing. I think what they need to get is above average goaltending. And I think from what people say, if they do, then they're live. Maybe the division is weaker. And I'm also of two minds about something else. It's the first game of the season. When the season ended, and then here comes the draft right after the finals. The draft happens right away. Free agency is never fun here. Free agency is always what the Sabres don't do or can't have. And that has never changed. So, you sort of look at that off side eye a little bit. And most of the discussion about them was negative, and it usually is with these guys after a season. What they didn't do. They didn't make the playoffs. They didn't come that close to making the playoffs. Now what happens? J.J. Peterka is traded. Do they replace his goals? Not obviously. Do they replace his goals? Do they go get a goalie that people will talk about as, one of the good ones? No. So the season, ends, or the playoffs end, which is a very different thing when the Sabres are the topic. And it's like, well, they didn't do this. They didn't do this. Do they trade their first round pick? No. So again, these are not people like unanimously feeling one way. It's just like this is A, B, and C, what didn't happen. And then pretty much the offseason really arrives when free agency plays out, the draft has happened, and you just kind of sit there for 2 months. And does anything happen in those 2 months? No, even though we might have said it still could every once in a while. Doesn't happen. That's how it goes as you step out of the season. I will have to admit, though, and I don't mean this like I can't believe I'm going to say something positive because I'm perfectly willing to. I just need it to be warranted. When you get to the beginning of the season, I kind of like that so much of the team is so familiar. I feel like that's good. It's usually not how we analyze teams. Why does it need to be so much of the same core? And further, when that team misses the playoffs year after year, well, why wouldn't I want to change it? Maybe it's both sides of my mouth. I mean, I do like that Thompson, Dahlin, Tuck, these top guys that we've look. I mean, not only have we gotten used to them, but they've been excellent players, if not elite. You want to be able to see this through without having to sacrifice somebody on that level, which the Sabres have done plenty of in this drought. I mean, that's Jack and Sam, right? I mean, if they're going to do it, they decide they're going to have to do it without their best players. And all right, well, that's going to be hard. That's not this. What they have to be able to do, in addition to getting better goaltending, which I think they are long overdue for, but also maybe not sort of expected to get that on paper, at least as the season starts. Maybe it'll happen. What they have to be able to do in addition to that is not get buried outside of their stars. Oh, and score power play goals like at a league average rate, or even better, ideally, would be nice, because that was a problem before. And so many of these teams, some of them at least, if not so many, these teams that have missed have been teams where you did have, as you I think have now, you have a couple of elite players, but the bottom of your depth chart would get run over. And that was the problem during Jack's years here, that they just couldn't win games because they were so weak in that area. And that was one reason. So, and Peyton Krebs, who was on yesterday, is somebody that is important for that, right? I mean, he's important for that. It's not the old days when it comes to the fourth line. You'd like, maybe if you're a Sabres fan, his 15 or so minutes on the show yesterday. He got into some of what the role is for him as a fourth line center, and also talked about how his daughter was at swimming lessons yesterday. And I asked him if she plays other sports or something, and he said, well, she's one, so not really. Like, oh, she's not playing box lacrosse. I'm sort of embarrassed by that. All right, let's go to Phil here. Hi, Phil.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking my call. I do want to expand on 2 points you made. The one about goaltending being so important is so critical. It has been since the 1970s in the NHL. It's just a critical position. You need saves, especially to bail you out of certain situations. You know, you hear about goaltenders stealing games. We don't get much of that, at least not last year. And then the other point you made about the familiar faces, I kind of too like the familiar faces. I'm just waiting for these guys to become men. When I look at playoffs over the last 2 years, and you look at playoff teams, and you look at these men playing these games, and, you know, tough guys, men, I feel like our players just haven't reached that manly status, if it makes sense at all of what I'm saying. But I'm just waiting for them to become men, quite frankly, to you know, have that toughness about them and that edge about them. And I just haven't seen it in the last couple of years. So I'm hoping that happens this year.
Yep, I agree with this to a point. I think there's a mistake that gets made when we confuse talent for effort or grit. I hate to use the word grit. And I think those teams that you watch in the playoffs look how they look, mostly because they're better. And I think the rest of it just kind of shows itself. But plenty of people have say the same thing about the Sabres and have said it for maybe most of the Sabres' existence. And even you can get me there. I've done it at times. So I feel like the point is really about toughness. And yeah, I guess we'll see. It's a new season. I don't want to walk into it assuming the worst or anything. Goaltending, of course, it's important. I think also a mistake that can be made, even by teams, is feeling like they know who are the good goalies, who are going to be the ones that you can really trust. And, you know, we've talked about this forever, how hard it is. If you look at historically, if you look at the numbers, how hard it is, how few goalies can repeat elite seasons. I kind of like it. It's sort of inside out. I kind of like for this season, trying to be optimistic for it, that Alex Lyon has never really gotten a serious turn as a full-time goalie outside of certain stretches. And who knows with Luukkonen, like he's going to get that right now. He gets right now as the season starts. If they start well with him, he stays in. I mean, eventually, of course, backups always play, and Luukkonen plays, and he's getting paid, so eventually that would happen. But I think if Lyon happens to look really good right out of the box, the Sabres are going to want to go with that. I mean, they have to, given the state of things here and how long it's been. They would have to. So, yeah, he's never been that, but he's also never, like, kind of failed at it. I mean, he's, 902 for his career. It's not stellar, but new scenery and all that. Do you have scenery on the card? Change of scenery for Alex Lyon? Maybe you could check that one off. Quick break, then we'll talk some more. Paul in the pregame show at 6 for the opener, Sabres and Rangers tonight on WGR. Welcome back. Sabres pregame opening night coming up. Less than 15 minutes. Paul Hamilton will join me from downtown. Let's get a couple calls in if we can. Harry is next. Hello, Harry.
Hi, Mike. You know, your last caller kind of got me inspired to call because there's too much focus on the goaltending when really the focus should be on the defense. One of the things that I noticed in this preseason is that the Sabres really cut down, almost eliminated, odd man rushes and turnovers at the blue line. And if you remember last year and years before, that was always the problem with the Sabres. They always gave up the high danger chances on turnovers, on breakaways, or defense didn't cover men down low. If Lindy can get this defense to play better, this goaltending situation will improve remarkably. And that's my take.
I think that of course is connected, but I think it's also completely right to say that their goaltending has largely let them down. It's not all just guys in wide open spaces. You know, it's both. I mean, it's such a long season that all works itself out. And Luukkonen, off a fine previous year, gave them 887. I mean, it just was not going to work. If they get 887 again, and you might say it's just because their defense is bad, but it probably isn't just that. Let's go to John here. Hi, John.
Hey, Mike. So my question for you is, what are your general thoughts about the Sabres being so beloved in the analytics community? I don't think I've seen a model that has us below 85 points. And while that isn't quite playoff caliber, that's still a respectable, competitive team. And like I said, that's the lowest projection I've seen for them. And since you are an analytics guy, I'm curious if this affects your opinion on the team and if you're more optimistic about them than maybe you were a month ago.
Do you have a take on this? Do you have a theory?
No. That's why I called.
Okay. I hope I don't let you down because I'm not such a student in a lot of the hockey analytics. It used to be, well, this is maybe going to sound like an excuse. It used to be pretty simple. You know, possession and hits are actually bad because I don't have the puck. There were certain things that made it easy. Now it's just clearly way more sophisticated. I know I read Greg Wyshynski on his team preview, and he did predict the Sabres to finish short. But he pointed out your point, which is the numbers people love the Sabres, and it's their players. It's 6 or 8 guys that are not all, even the guys from Utah in the Paterka thing, that I think, not to paint with such a broad brush, but that numbers people like. I think maybe it's also that you see power play special teams as primed for regression, that there's maybe more volatility year to year in special teams, and the Sabres are coming from a pretty dark place in power play and penalty killing, more so power play. So I think you could have that. Maybe goaltending is a part of this too, because you do see, spikes in goalies. We've had that with Luukkonen, pretty good example of it. And so you might expect some positive regression. I hate that term. Isn't it progression? But nobody ever says progression in that area. And you have stalwarts like Thompson, Dahlin. You have top-end players that are not volatile. Those are players you think you can expect to repeat their performance or even improve on. Like if the special teams are better, you get better numbers out of Thompson and Dahlin probably. So I hope that's it. I mean, 85 points is not good. Like it's got to be better than that for us to be happy. But your point is that everything you've looked at, numbers people like them. And I think I would agree. And maybe those are a few reasons why. If there's anything else out there that we should know, somebody more knowledgeable than me in this area should be encouraged to weigh in. But it's not going to be through calls now because we're out of time for that. Paul Hamilton next. And here we go. Sabres pregame on WGR.
Pregame coming up next as the Buffalo Sabres get ready to open up their season at home against the New York Rangers. 7 p.m. puck drop this evening. Alex Lyon is set to get the start in net. And then some good news from yesterday. On the blue line, both Owen Power and Matthias Samuelsson are expected to play. We'll get the latest. Paul Hamilton's going to join the show next. For the Bills, they also got back to work today. Just 2 players did not practice, Matt Milano and TJ Sanders, while 7 players were limited. Deion Dawkins, DeMar Hamlin, Dalton Kincaid, Ed Oliver, Taylor Rapp, Curtis Samuel, and Dorian Williams. And the Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help? Call 1-800-8-MILLION. Week 6 of the NFL season is going to get underway tonight, Thursday Night Football, over on Amazon Prime. It's the Giants hosting the Eagles. Kickoff at 8:15. You can also listen to the game over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And then some notes for tonight's contest. Wide receiver Darius Slayton out for the Giants. Same with Eagles guard Landon Dickerson. The Eagles, though, they've also activated linebacker Nakobe Dean from IR and have elevated defensive tackle Gabe Hall from the practice squad. While in baseball, just 2 games tonight. Dodgers hosting the Phillies. That game's going to get going here in the next few minutes. Then at 9, Brewers at Cubs. LA and Milwaukee are the 2 teams that can advance tonight with a win. And Sports Talk on WGR is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch the local NFL games live every Sunday, all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
A little more than an hour away from the Sabres' 55th season opener. I'm Mike Schopp. Thanks for joining us to celebrate the occasion. Bulldog is out sick today. I'm sure he's disappointed to miss it, as no matter how hot he or we get on the Sabres, nobody loves it more than that guy. So hopefully he's well enough to enjoy the game. We'll see if we can get some content from him tomorrow if he's up to it. Paul will join me shortly. The Sabres host the New York Rangers tonight. The Rangers have already played a game, but they didn't score. So each team tonight looking for their first goals of the season. The Rangers lost at home to Pittsburgh on Tuesday. 2 goals from Justin Brazeau and 1 from Blake Lizotte. I see. The Penguins have moved on from Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang. Actually, no, they haven't. Those guys all played on Tuesday night, but some different names on the score sheet. Malkin had 2 assists in the Penguins' win at the Rangers. Let's get right to Paul here. I know Paul also is going to be super excited for a new season. And Paul, this is the time of year where, especially for a team that's not gotten to the playoffs in so long, really I think the operative word is hope, that you can imagine a good season here. Everybody's tied.
Well, Mike, you'll hear in a few minutes Tage Thompson basically saying, of course I'm optimistic. Why wouldn't I be? He goes, we haven't started the season yet. We've had a good training camp. He said, so I'm absolutely optimistic about the season and what it may bring. And he's optimistic also because he meshed well with Josh Norris. I believe they both had 7 points in the preseason in 4 games. So, that's something that I think he's excited about. On the other side of that coin, you try to get a team that's going to be better defensively, and one of the biggest acquisitions you got to make yourself better defensively is not in the lineup, injured Kesselring, and your starting goaltender is not there. So, that's one where you're just going to kind of cringe your teeth and think, well, here's Alex Lyon. Maybe it's an opportunity for him to grab the job, because I'll tell you what, Mike, if in 2 weeks he's playing lights out, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's not getting in the net. I mean, if somebody's winning and somebody's playing well, they're going to be playing.
Yes, I was just making that point too. I think that the history here, if this isn't always true, it's got to be true right now with the Sabres, that if they find a goalie who can get them to a good start, I think he's their goalie, at least until that changes.
No question about it. And they can't do what they did last year, winning one of their first 6 games. And if you recall, the one win was against the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers 5-2. But you just cannot start with one win in 6 games. You just cannot put yourself behind the 8 ball. Then, you, as Lindy Ruff said, you're chasing all year long when you do that. And that doesn't even count the 13 games where they got 3 loser points and no wins. And that hadn't even come yet. You know, they had kind of gotten themselves back into it, and then they go on that 13-game slide, and that's the end. And we haven't even hit Christmas yet. So those are the traps they have to stop. They have to figure out, and if it gets started, the GM can't sit on his hands. He can't just sit there and watch it happen. He's got to do something to change it. And it can't just hit 13 games. It's like, well, we believe in our guys. Well, great. If you take the points before that 13-game streak and take the points after, both sets of points would have gotten you in the playoffs. It's the 13 games that killed you out of an 82-game season.
Sabres and Rangers tonight. You mentioned Kesselring being out and Luukkonen. Let's just fill that out here, Paul, with respect to injuries. Jordan Greenway, also from going way back, still out. But Power is in, right?
Well, I'm not sure because it was an optional today, and I'm on NHL Media, which usually updates immediately, and he's still on IR. He should have changed. If he was off IR, he should have changed by 5 o'clock, and he is still on IR. Now, they have a roster spot because somewhere is Georgiev. I don't know where. I don't know if he's in Rochester. I know he cleared waivers. That I do know for sure. He's not in Buffalo as far as on the Sabres. He's not on their roster. They have not made any announcement that he's been sent to Rochester, but there is a spot for Power because of that, him being waived and him clearing waivers. And maybe it's just a clerical thing. I mean, as far as I know, through practice, Power's been doing fine. He started with the yellow jersey, then was full practice, and has had no problems. But Lindy Ruff really didn't want to address the lineup other than say, hey, you guys have been seen watching practice. So basically, it seems like Bryson will get the first chance. He said maybe Johnson will get the chance in Boston to fill in for Kesselring. He said I think he wants to use them both at times. So, but that's the only thing I can tell you is the thing with Power should have happened at 5 o'clock, and it hasn't been changed yet.
We will see. I'm sure you'll update us once you know more.
Yep.
I've asked you this. The preseason's been over for what almost a week now. But would you call it largely a success?
Somewhat.
Okay.
But, when it started off really, really well, and then it ended up 3-2-1, but there were some things to like. I do think they were better defensively at times. The problem is you never really had your full lineup.
Yeah.
And they still don't.
Against another team's full lineup.
Right. That's the thing. You'll hear me ask Lindy Ruff about the penalty kill. I have no idea about the penalty kill because the guys who are killing penalties, a lot of them have been injured and are just coming back, and you still don't have Kesselring. So I don't know if the penalty kill is going to be any good or not because they had guys killing penalties in the preseason that aren't even here right now. So the power play was more of a realistic, representation, especially the number 1 unit with Norris on it. But as far as penalty kill, I don't know what to tell you because we're going to be seeing guys killing penalties that we haven't seen for a lot of the preseason.
How about your expectations for the special teams units to improve? There's a lot of improvement, possible or even necessary.
Well, it's an easy thing to say. People say, well, how are you going to replace Peterka's goals? Become an NHL power play. And I'm not being a jerk. Really. I mean, for 2/3 of the season, they weren't an NHL power play last year. They were awful. And then the last third of the year, they were much better at it. So if you just become 10th, 11th, 12th in the league in the power play, I think you've replaced those goals. You're talking about.
I'll be the judge of whether you're being a jerk here, Paul. That's not up to you to decide whether you're being a jerk. Other people decide that. Isn't that usually how the world works? Well, that's big, of course. And that's one reason to be optimistic, Paul, because in terms of special teams, in terms of save percentage, it didn't get much lower than the Sabres. And these are areas where teams there's volatility. Teams get a lot better or a lot worse year to year. So I think that might be one explanation for why some are optimistic for the Sabres. Some of the numbers analysts have been that way. It's been brought up on the show today, and I think it's correct.
Well, I think your save percentage is going to go up if the grade A chances go down, and that's the theory, that the grade A chances are going to go down. If you remember last year, a lot of guys on the energy line, and a lot of people call it the fourth line, I call it an energy line, were scoring against the Sabres. And a lot of that had to do with Connor Clifton. It wasn't Dahlin on the ice against those guys. And Connor Clifton just did not play well last year. He gave the puck away constantly. He was losing battles, and they were getting scored on. And that's now, Timmins is that guy once they get their defense back. And you would think that's going to be better, but if you just improve that part of it, stop giving up 2-on-1s and 3-on-1s with guys who aren't supposed to be scoring goals, you may improve your goals against right there.
The season is so back. We got the music behind Paul.
Yep.
And that now we know we're back. We've got, hard to play against takes and pucks to the net and, some of the usual stuff here. I'll really make the point, drive the point home by asking you if there will be a Connor Sherry tribute video tonight. One of my silly bits, even though he's been back here. It's, just a guy on the other team. Need I explain it? A guy on the Sabres opponent who used to be.
You picked the wrong guy.
Did I?
Yes.
Who do you want?
You picked Will Borgen.
Will Borgen? Okay, well, sure. You could also go with Will Borgen. Is that it? I think that's it.
Yeah, those are the two, Sherry and Borgen.
If you're going to do this, you got to do it tonight because this is the only time the Rangers play here this year. It's 2 there, 1 here.
It seems like they never play here because when they had the Winter Classic in New York, they didn't play here.
Yeah.
It's just like, how come the Rangers never are here?
This is it. A couple more of the new names, Paul. Justin Danforth is one. Josh Stone. There are people who are really into the idea of him. What do you think here? It's going to be what? Danforth, Krebs, and Malenstein.
If Danforth plays, I could see a world where Gertzen dresses because of Rempe. I hate that world, but that could happen. If that were to happen, I don't think Danforth plays. But Danforth is just a pain in the butt. He's just all over the place. There's a guy who played a couple years in the East Coast League and just fought his way to the NHL by being that. He's just always in your face. He's always on the puck. He's always in the battle. That's just the kind of guy. His motor is constantly running. Now, he's not, he's got to be on your energy line. He's not going to be playing with Thompson and Norris, but it's a guy that is going to be. Teams do not like playing against him, and the Sabres didn't have enough of those guys.
How about Doan? Do you share the general excitement, even if it's not too strong to put it that way, about him?
Yeah, this is a guy who scored goals in the American Hockey League. 26, 27, I believe, in a season, and somewhere in there. And he also is a guy that I think has an upside and has only played 1 year in the National Hockey League. And it's somebody that Kevin Adams insisted was going to be in the trade. It was no trade until he was involved. And he is involved now. And I've liked him in the preseason, honestly. He comes as advertised. He's in the middle of everything. He's around the crease. He's around the wall, winning battles. And he's just, again, another pain that other teams are like, you know what, we didn't have to play against him. And but we'll see if there's a scoring touch. If there's that McLeod upside that we saw last year with Ryan McLeod.
Let's take a minute on the Rangers. Checking out the other team, brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey. When it's game time, it's Tully time. 0-1, losing the game at home to the Penguins on Tuesday night. A kind of a rare down year for the Rangers that they're coming off. Now Mike Sullivan, late of the Penguins, takes over.
Yeah, and I imagine they're going to come in here cranky after losing. Now, Shesterkin only gave up a goal. I believe there probably were 2 empty netters.
That's correct.
They're going to be cranky losing at home 3-0. Of course, they got Panarin, which everybody knows about, but a guy like Chris Kreider is now to Duck. Zibanejad's not who he used to be. I don't think he was last year either. So, they have Adam Fox, who didn't have a good year last year. Lafreniere, I don't know. Is he the number 1 overall pick? Has he lived up to it? I'll let other people decide that. I would say probably not quite, although he's getting better. And JT Miller came back and is now their captain. That's a good gutty player there that's their captain, but still not the Rangers that we're used to seeing.
You know, the big picture for tonight, Paul, I mean, the results count just the same as every other game, of course, but it's back. And I can remember when I was going to games pretty often, you sort of walk in, you see a lot of the same people. You don't know most of them, but they all look familiar. Everybody's sort of back in their spots and back in their seats. And I'm glad that for this whole thing that the game is sold out. Because I think, if it weren't, and it was kind of obvious, as there will be these nights, that's what we end up talking about sometimes, like where are the fans? But tonight it should be a full building.
Yeah, don't lay an egg in front of a sold-out house here. I mean, people are here to say, okay, what do you got? It's been 14 years. What do you got? Show me. Don't lose 4-0.
Yeah.
I mean, have a good game, a good performance if you're the Buffalo Sabres, and show the fans that you mean business and things could possibly be different. But nothing could be worse for them if they just lay an egg and it's more of the same.
Well, Paul, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Thanks for your time as always.
Okay.
Sabres and Rangers downtown. We have Tage Thompson coming up. We have Owen Power. Before we get to them, we'll have Lindy Ruff too. There are 14 games in the league tonight, so that'll take me a while to rip through. The Sabres, and this often happens, doesn't it? They start with a home-heavy schedule. To Paul's point, about not at least looking bad here. First 14 games, 10 are at home. 4 of the first 5, 6 of the first 8. And that includes a game, let's see, the Monday for the holiday. Monday afternoon, Colorado. Wednesday night, Ottawa. Next Saturday afternoon, Florida. I mean, it's good opponents. Detroit, Toronto the following week. We'll see, again, it's like we just keep saying, if the Sabres can put down a start that will have people believing in this, which is not a given. Tonight's cool. Opening night downtown. If you're going, good for you. Have a great time down there. We've got more here from the locker room, as I mentioned, but before we get to the players, here's the